Correct. Dave, can you hear us? See us? Think so.
Yes, I hear you and see you.
Sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So then Donna is unable to be here today. She had some family needs that she's taking care of. She may jump on a Zoom at some time, but she wasn't sure if she'd be able to. And then just looking for Paul. So
I talked to him this morning. He should be coming. He just asked where the room was, so I would expect him anytime.
probably didn't realize the wind had subsided. So
Shot by.
went right by. Yeah, it was crazy last night here. Everybody here last night? Yeah, what a wild night.
Didn't get to northeast Montana about 4 o'clock this morning.
Oh.
Was that-
quit then?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to welcome everybody. And before we do, well, let's do some quick intros. So I'll start. I'm here in Helena. I can't remember. My term will end in 27. I've been on the council a few times. I think 8 or 9, maybe more years, along with a number of other folks. I represent the sportsmen in this committee, and I own a sporting goods store here in Helena. Been involved with that for 41 years. Heard a lot from both landowners and hunters, and even the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, just by being situated in the city of Helena. Great working group. We have a good impact on the issues we're charged with. I've really enjoyed working with everybody that's been on the council. Look forward to the new members. Got a family of 4 kids, two in Montana and 2 somehow ended up in Wisconsin cheese country through college endeavors. Yeah, so that's it. How about Lee?
I'm from Glasgow, Montana. They finally designated that Glasgow is right exactly in the middle of nowhere. So I live about 15 miles from the middle of nowhere. My family's been there since 1892. We never got enough money to leave. So, and I'm the 3rd generation in a 5-generation ranch here. We raise stockers and cows and calves and quarter horses. Put up some.
If you had that money, where would you go, Lee?
I wouldn't know where to.
You wouldn't anyway, would you?
No, I don't want to go.
Thanks, Lee. Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie Prater. I represent sports people. I've been on the committee, I think, about 2 years. I'm from Lewistown, but I originally grew up in Helena here. I am the vice president of the Montana Bow Hunters Association, and I served on the FWP Citizens Elk Advisory Group. That's kind of how I came to get more involved in FWP. I have 3 beautiful black baby dogs and a husband who you guys will meet tonight at dinner.
Thanks, Stephanie. Chris?
Chris Faber, I'm new on the board. South of Havre and Big Sandy and the Bearpaw Mountains, where the family ranch has been since one of the family ranches in the Bearpaws. There's a lot of Faber ranches, but 1896, I believe. You got me by 4 years.
Well, I don't.
I also have a ranch in the Missouri Breaks south of there, the Pinwheel J Ranch. I'm also an outfitter. My dad actually started outfitting about 40 years ago, and I helped guide, and then I became an outfitter. So it's been about 40 years of doing this too. So, I've got a son that works for Boeing in Seattle, and daughter works for Mayo Clinic in Phoenix. They both left. Got a wife in Havre, and she's in hotel restaurant business.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Tribby?
My name's Dale Tribby. I live in Miles City, or just outside of Miles City. I moved to Montana in 1988, and in that time frame, I been on 2 different upland game bird advisory councils, and I think I was on one of the first precursors that helped formulate the guidelines for block management right after I moved here. In my professional career, I worked for the Bureau of Land Management in Miles City for many, many years, where I oversaw wildlife and recreation, a lot of other programs in my tenure there. Avid hunter, would like to be a more avid fly fisherman, but it's just too far to always go. But when we're done here, I'm going to go home, and if all works out, the next morning I'll have my dog in tow, and we will go look for some roosters.
Cindy.
Okay. I'm Cindy Cohan. I'm from Butte. I grew up in Butte. I'm retired. I'm a retired Air Force colonel. And I reviewed studies for FWP on things that they want to study, bears and elk and this and that. Which is very interesting because it runs the gamut, clear from like bass to elk. It's really something. I represent sporting people. I am a sportsman, so not as good as I wish I was. And that's it. Oh, I've been on the council about 8 years.
I'm Drew Steinberger. I live in Billings, Montana. This is my second round on the with the group. I think you got me till 29. That's right. Mainly represent sportsmen. I'm a public land sportsman most of the time, but my family farms in Forsyth, and I'm in the sporting goods wholesale world. That's my current career.
So you resent Craig?
No, I need to teach Craig.
Oh.
I'm coachable.
Just kidding.
Whatever.
Whatever's free. Sorry about
Whatever's
that.
free.
Great.
Right, Jordan, Great Falls. Haven't been on the committee but a year, less than a year, I guess, and so had a long tenure with Fish, Wildlife and Parks, game warden, public information biologist, then retired and worked private sector, and I kind of head up the game research and the hunting on a conservation branch in the Bitterroot Ranch. Also started working with Montana Conservation Society with a bunch of kind of youth hunting advanced hunter classes, where once they go to the class that's held on these different ranches, that fairly restricted access to get a chance to hunt those ranches. So it's kind of a window into access in some of these places that are kind of tough to access. It's been kind of fun. I kind of asked to represent sportsman / landowner. It's been good, and it's been great meeting you guys, and learning, and all the time.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah.
Yep, Rich Birdsell. I'm from Kalispell, Montana. I've been an outfitter, both fly fishing and hunting since '95. So this is 30 years. It's hard to believe. But originally from Washington State, came here in 1987. Although my family's goes way back into my great grandfather came in 1860 to Montana and married a full-blooded Indian. So my roots are deep in Montana. But yeah, I'm here as an outfitter, as a sportsman, and also represent landowners, because many of my friends and business partners are big landowners. So all of the above.
Thanks, Richard. Dave on Zoom.
Yeah, Dave McNanny. I live at Hysham, Montana. Been a lifelong rancher there. I'm a new kid on your committee because I was just appointed this last time, and I'm just kind of on here. I would like to see some better landowner, fish, wildlife, and park relations.
Thank you, sir. And still not. Okay. So before we do some intros to some of the FWP staff that's here today, I'm going to take the time and liberty to reread our charge for the benefit of the new members and us for a refresher. So this is from our state code that designates our responsibilities. And I'll jump through it quickly. So in the first section, it says the committee must have broad representation of landowners, outfitters, and sports persons. And I think as you go around, you can hear that, whether it's geographic or all our different ways that we operate in the state of Montana. And I think it's important to note that this is who we all represent. That's the challenge in this council, to be effective, I think, to wear those hats. Certainly to wear the specific hats that you know the most about through your livelihood, your life's experience, and your activities on the ground in Montana. So it's important that everybody gives the benefit of that information into the discussions that we have on this council. We've had enjoyed good success in that, I think, in the past years. But we want to encourage and welcome your particular understandings and needs on the ground in the areas where you are. I think that geographic representation is often very unique to add to the sports person, the landowner, and the outfitter situations in themselves. The second part is, so the Private Land Public Wildlife Advisory Committee shall report to the governor and to each regular session of the legislature regarding the success of various elements of the hunting access programs, including report of annual landowner participation, the number of acres annually enrolled in the programs, hunter harvest success on enrolled lands, the number of qualified applicants who were denied enrollment because of a shortfall in funding, and an accounting of program expenditures, and then make recommendations for funding modification or improvement needed to achieve the objectives of the programs. Again, we shall report to the governor and to each regular session of the legislature regarding the success of the fishing access enhancement program and all the other access programs that FWP is in charge of administering. So it's pretty broad, but very focused charge. And it requires a lot of deliberation. So we welcome you through three new members and look forward to the discussions that'll follow. So if we can do a quick intro on our FWP.
Sure. The ones online first. All right, so we have regional access managers, region 1, 2, 5, and 6, Kalispell, Missoula, Billings, and then Glasgow are participating online. So I guess Macy, if you're able, say a quick hi and introduction. I'll jump to Trent.
Yep. Yeah. Good afternoon, committee. I'm Macy Dugan. I'm the Region 1 Access Manager based out of Kalispell. Just starting year 4 of being in this position. So nice seeing y'all.
Thanks, Macy. Trent.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Trenton Heisel. I'm the Regional Access Manager here in Missoula. I've been in the role for a little over a year now, but previously I was in Billings as the Access Manager for about 2.5 years. So good to see everybody again.
Trenton's got the added benefit of being a technician in Region 6, some administrative help for Region 3, Access Manager in Region 5, and now Access Manager in Region 2. So he's definitely the most traveled access staff I think we have. Go ahead, Ian, if you're available. And then I guess we'll just jump to Katie. Katie, if you're on and available.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Katie Iverson. I'm the Region 6 Access Manager out of Glasgow. I've been in this position for about 3.5 years.
try Ian one more time if you're available. You might be dealing with other stuff too. Okay, you guys want to go and we'll.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Alex Dolvino, Agency Legal Counsel. Been with the department for about 3 years. Happy to help you guys along here and happy to see you guys as well.
Renee Lemon, Division Administrator for our Parks and Outdoor Recreation Division. I started again with the agency back in February after taking a couple of year hiatus and working for a couple other different state agencies.
I'm Natalie Strauss. I'm the administrative assistant for Parks and Outdoor Recreation. I've been here a year and a half.
Robin, do you want to go?
I'm Robin Darch. I'm the licensing operations manager here at Shoreline.
Peyton Child, I'm the licensing business analyst at Fish Wildlife and Parks.
Emily Cooper, I'm the licensing chief at Wildlife and Parks.
We've been lucky to be with the director's office here. Thanks for having me.
Then you probably all know me, Jason Cool. Hunting Access Program Manager, been with FWP for almost 9 years. The staff responsibility for this committee does fall straight me and obviously a variety of others, but if you guys need anything or have questions, anything, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, especially from the distance. So today we're going to work through a lot of information in regards to landowner preference. We're going to hear from Quentin shortly and kind of why we're looking at this, just a little understanding of it. When you look at our charge, the part I failed to do is it talks about really dealing with the issues of fishing access, landowner hunter relations is where this really comes into play, outfitting industry issues, public access, and representing all these parties we've talked about. So that's really where this is going to fall into play for us. So we're going to look hard at that today. A lot of information, I think, will be coming our way. Hopefully you've had time to read everything that sent our way and all the various tags and preferences and bonuses. 168, 640 acres all make sense to everybody. Non-resident, resident options.
Bonus
or preference points. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of why we're going to. So we'll delve into that and then have time again for public comment. So make sure your phones are shut off. Anything you say and will be used against you. No. Anything since we're in a public meeting, that in mind. And then we will have public comment. I know there's one member of the public here for this meeting. And then this evening, we have a no host dinner opportunity downtown next to your hotel at the main bag. Okay. And I do remind you or put in front of you tomorrow when we conclude, as you came in here, you see this big, beautiful new building over here. That's the Montana Heritage Center. I've not been in there, but Jason arranged for an opportunity for us to take a tour there tomorrow. Hopefully you have an hour to at least get a look at it. I think it's going to be a pretty amazing thing for the state of Montana, from what I've heard so far. So just tuck that in. I know I sent that out, but if you can, I think you'd really enjoy it if the wind allows you to stay. So no further ado. Any comment from the committee before we roll into it?
Does that mean you're not going to tell any jokes?
Well,
sorry.
I want one now or later, so we'll go later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Later.
Jason.
Turn it over to Mr. Kuchela.
Okay. Where I should sit, maybe I should step over. Go out there and get on.
Got a podium.
Yeah, real quick.
Oh, look at that.
Thank you, Sarah. And Quentin Fuchila, again, thank you very much for gathering. Thank you for your efforts. And we think that the topic in front of you really does stab the way the chair identified it, where it fits relative to the charter. And also the details that the chair spoke about, a reference to 160 here and 640 there. Reference to reconciling all those places, that vocabulary shows up in statute and in other guidance for the department. But you know, in that context, the question why landowner preference and PLPW, a little bit of long history, and as we have an agency and some short history, some recent history, and we have always seen the agency sees landowner preference as a nod of recognition to the landowner, in whatever else for the landowner's contribution to habitat, commerce for wildlife presence on that habitat, and also recreational and commercial opportunities allow for, provide for. Again, a nod of recognition to the landowner, the individual landowners, the landowner community, and the advantage, the additional opportunities to achieve opportunities in the context of drawings that landowner preference provides. That's the long history context. The short history is the last couple of years, certainly leading up to the 2025 session. And an agency with, it's not uncommon for us to get the questions about the details that the chair spoke to, 160 here, 640 there. Hunting just on the property, hunting across the district. Should it be one, but not the other? Should it be the other, but not the one? Those sorts of questions. And then we saw some of those in questions, some of them advocacies, some of them discussion points, some of them uncertainties, some of them why is this, why is not there. In the legislature in the 2025 session, one bill came forward. It was a bill that struck raise under contract to purchase as it relates to one of the conditions to be eligible for landowner preference. But there were other conversations there, and in some of those conversations we heard, and we did, so everybody knows, we parroted the potential for this to the degree that that venue hit some of the details that we heard people talking about, that venue being the session, but we also got places that we not take up all of the other details that we were hearing on this topic. And so all eyes open, we were asked about what venue might pick up the topic again and look at it for the purposes of consistency. Is it as right as it could be? Is there pieces that are good that could be made more of? Or are there pieces that are bad that could be more consistent? Maybe yes, maybe no. We don't come, so we did parrot that question. We sat down with the chair earlier, and we sat down in Great Falls in your first meeting in this round, this interlounge here, and we nominated the idea of council looking at landowner preference. And really that is the sum total of our request, is to take a look. We don't come with the recommendation for change. We only come recognizing that there seems to be a spike in the attention given to the interest in, the participating interest in the thing that is landowner preference, the way landowner preference shows up in things like drawing opportunities, or the definitions of designee right. Are they right here? Are they right there? Where those two references to things like this might be a little bit different with the statute. Is that okay? Or are those things that need to be fixed? Those kind of questions. Again, you're going to hear from Emily and her people a lot more detail, and I'm speaking to here detail pulling the statute. We're going to help you understand how we implement. So it's not so much, in fact, Emily's crew capably implements the concept as we see guidance in statute. But it's not so much that we can't do it. They are doing it on behalf of the agency per statute. We just wanted to bring forward that whole context, more focused in what we've seen in the past, more interest in what we've seen in the past, some questions about why this and not that. Could it be this? Should it be that? And so we ask you to take a look at it. No recommendation for change. Happy to hear what you talk about. Happy to understand if the status quo works. Status quo is as right as it could be for a whole bunch of reasons, or maybe some intriguing questions that you chase a little further in answer to why or why not. Sure, I'd stop there for questions, but that really is the whole of it for us. Just an ask to take a look and help us understand how to hear all of those questions about what is, what isn't, how come it's not that, how come couldn't it be this? We can put more details to those two as you work through the details, but then once I'm sure.
Any questions for Quentin right now? So as we get into that, will those questions, like through the last session that arose, will those questions come to light in that?
I don't know if I see them coming to light in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll see them on the flat pieces of paper, but hopefully you'll see us. And I'm going to guess that some of you as well, and some of the opinion public might pick up some of those conversation. To But certainly if you don't see that bubbling up now and again here in the county's office, I will post some of those conversations out and apply it to the conversation. Thank you for your tolerance for that. I do have to step out. I'm in another room. It's just a division of laborers. I'll look for opportunity over there to come back in here and check back in, see if I can help. And certainly I'm just across the foyer. So if there is a specific question that I can help with, don't hesitate to send out someone over to grab. Again, really appreciate you gathering. Should have said happy holidays to everybody. It's a neat time of year and it's also a busy time of year. So thanks for carving out a little space for this topic. And for us, we value the conversation. We're happy to see where it concludes and how it progresses. And then we want to thank you again for putting it up and putting it on as one of your task items for the interim cycle.
Thanks, Quinn.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Turn it over to Emily and Erstedt.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for inviting us to come and talk to you guys and have a conversation. My name is Emily Cooper. Again, I am the licensing chief here at FWP.
I'm Peyton Child. I'm the licensing business analyst. I handle our drawings, analysis, our licensing permit sale.
I'm Robin Barch. I'm the licensing operations manager. I maintain and manage all of our licensing permits in our system, which means making it available for you to purchase and apply. I'm going to hand out a copy here of the presentation before you get started. That way, if you have any questions, you can follow along and make notes on it as well.
So landowner preference is a very heavy subject matter. So we are going to, we're going to dive in, but it's going to be a lot of information that we're going to give you, and we're going to be hip deep in it, which is why we gave you the handout of the presentation that we're going through. We found out in our presentations, as far as the licensing goes, it's best if we go through the entire presentation and then ask questions at the end, because some of those questions might be answered. There are slide numbers on here, and if you just make a note and you want to go back and talk about slide 3, I'm happy to do that. I forgot to thank Renee and Jason for having us come, but we are here to answer any and all questions that you have. You have us all day today and tomorrow as well. So anything that you got, throw it our way. These guys know everything about everything. So with that, we will just get started and kind of talk about what landowner preference is. What is landowner preference? LOP, as we call it here in-house, or FWP, and we like some acronyms. It creates a separate pool of licenses and permits that are drawn first before the general pool. So it sets aside a specific one. We draw landowner preference first before we draw the rest. There's 15% of an opportunity quota that's designated for landowner preference. Any of those leftover licenses are then added to the general pool. So if we talk about a landowner preference quota and only 10 of the 15 are drawn, we toss those 5 back into the general pool. So all those licenses are distributed. And landowner preference only applies to first choice opportunities. I forgot to mention, if we get into stuff, we are actually the group to talk about preference points, bonus points, all of that stuff. What happened at the commission? We're the group, and we're happy to answer any of those questions go along that kind of connect to this in many different ways. Landowner preference does not guarantee a successful draw, but it is likely to increase your odds quite a bit, depending on the district and the opportunities available and applicants involved.
One quick question. If a landowner doesn't draw the landowner preference, do they go into the general draw as well?
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yep. The 15% pool is shared between residents and non-residents, but non-residents are capped at 10% of the entire drawing for both of those. So I don't know if you guys know this, but all limited opportunities in the state of Montana are limited in what we call a 90-10 split. 90% of the available opportunities are for residents. Non-residents are capped at 10%. So we'll go through when we kind of go through our presentation, we'll kind of give you an example of how that 10% and the 15% work together. And we'll give you some examples later. Go ahead. Okay, there's a couple different kinds of landowner preference. So the first one is landowner preference for deer and elk. This is for your permits, antelope, archery only, antelope. The requirements for these two specific types, deer and antelope, are a minimum of 160 acres. It's used for agricultural purposes within the apply for hunting district. So as you know, landowner preference in Montana
landowner preference is good for the whole district, not just specifically your property that you own. Landowner preference for LP has a 640 acre requirement, at least some of which is used by elk. Or there's an additional subset requirement that is 160 acres of ag production land that has documented game damage within 2 years. You can also qualify for landowner preference for that piece of property as well.
That one actually came out of this committee a few years ago, quite honestly.
Yeah, okay. Then we have landowner preference for elk permit, similar to the first elk one we talked about, 640 acres, at least some of which used by elk. Then we get into a completely different one. This is applicable to non-residents altogether. Residents aren't part of this pool. It's called the non-resident priority. This applies only to non-resident big game licenses and our big game and elk combination licenses, what we call a B10 in statute. And this is going to be about 17,000. So it's not in addition to the 17,000, it's part of the 17,000. 15% of that 17,000, 2,550 licenses are available to non-resident landowners that own at least 2,500 acres. So you're required to own those 2,500 acres. They're valid only on that landowner's property. They're not valid within the district like the other landowner preferences. And then in statute, there is a condition that says for every 2,500 acres owned, in addition to 2,500 and 2,500, 5,000, you get 2 licenses up to a maximum of 1. Also, that law says that landowners who qualify for this program and have enrolled in an FWP administered access program like Block or PALA or EHA, you have the opportunity to purchase an additional bonus point for deer or elk. So who can receive this priority? There are a little bit different terms for each of them. For the landowner preference for deer, elk, and antelope, a landowner can qualify, or they can designate an immediate family member or an employee. For the non-resident priority pool, just the landowner and an immediate family member, they're limited to that. Again, who can receive it? We did a couple of examples because that kind of helps sometimes. For deer, elk, and antelope, one person can claim 1 property and 1 license type per year. So each year, 1 person can claim an elk permit and the other may claim an antelope, but 2 people cannot claim the elk permit. So we're all 3 siblings, and Peyton applies for the elk permit, Robin applies for the antelope license, and I apply for the elk B. All good. We all want to apply for the elk permit, no can do on the same property. In the priority pool, as I explained, this is the 2,500 minimum acres. If you have 5,000 to almost 7,500, you get 2. And then all the way up to 12,500 acres, you can have up to 5 people. This is for non-resident license, general licenses only. And we'll get into the requirements on all of those later on how non-residents work, all the statistics on that in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Robin, and she's going to talk about the application process and how FWP deals with applications from here. All right, so this is how an applicant applies for landowner preference. First, they must apply for the desired license or permit either online or at an FWP office. Nowhere on the online application does it require the individual to say that they are applying for landowner preference. However, during the application, it does show all the required information if you do choose to apply for landowner preference. Second, you will print out the required form to fill it out with all of your supplemental documentation to either email it or mail it to licensing. Third, licensing reviews all of the application documents to make sure you have all the supplemental information, tax documents, property information that is required. Fourth, we either approve or deny the application. If approved, you are approved for landowner preference and you will go into the landowner preference portion of the drawing. If you are denied, we reach out to you via email, phone number, letter to make sure that if you forgot some sort of missing documentation that you do submit that before the drawing has happened. That's a good note to mention when you're applying online. Make sure all your information is up to date because that's how we contact you if we do lose anything. However, if you are denied landowner preference, you will still enter the general portion of the drawing.
What's the time frame for these applications? Be mailed in and stuff.
Yep, it does have to be received by the deadline. So for deer elk, it has to be received by April 1st. So if you apply on March 1st, you have a full month to do it. If you apply on March 31st, you must get your documentation in by April 1st. So I recommend the earlier you can do it, the better, definitely. That being said, if you forget something, then we can reach out to you. However, we do try to reach out to you the best we can until the drawing, it's typically about 15 days after the application period is up. This is an example of a 2025 land owner preference form here. This is what's on our website once you get your application process online. You can see here part A just is the person's application, person's information that is claiming landowner preference. Part B is the landowner information. And part C is the required information that you are needing to submit. I do want to make note, in 2022, we did make a difference on the application. We require that you do understand that it's a lot of information that you have to submit. So if you were approved in a previous year, you only have to submit your documentation every other year. That way you're not submitting everything every year. It's important to note, you know, if I claimed landowner preference or property was successful, then Peyton went to do it the next year. He is required to submit all of the new documentation because it is per person, we don't track it by land.
Landowner preference is an annual qualification. You have to do this every year. You have to submit this every year and say you want preference at every single application year.
Which I understand some people, you've owned the same property for 30 years and nothing changes. However, we could sell that, and unfortunately we don't know that, but it is an annual. Next slide is a copy of the non-resident combination priority pool application. So very similar to the last one here. Part A is the non-resident landowners application is applying. Right here on part B, because the priority pool, you have up to 5 members, 5 acres. You list all your factors. And the way priority pool works is each land gets a license before the next land gets a license. However, we have not reached the maximum there. We do require that you run this in order. So this is just kind of more explanation on the application process. We did say that your property must be used by elk. Our HUD planner here with our FWP Korean elk layer, this is our general elk distribution. This is where we qualify that your land is used by elk. This info is collected from our wildlife staff and is turned over to the GIS layer. On the right here, we use Montana cadastral data to verify acreage, hunting district, and the land ownership. So all this information that you submit is to match this information. If there is a miscommunication that it doesn't match, we will reach out if we need more information. I want to talk about some recent legislation. House Bill 146 that passed in 2023. This established statutory authority and eligibility for landowner preference for deer and antelope licenses. Prior to 2023, this was just in our rule. However, we wanted to put it into statute because elk permit is in statute to make it similar to that. House Bill 635 passed in 2023. This established the authority and eligibility requirements for the priority pool. House Bill 519 did not pass in 2025. This would have repealed the non-resident priority pool program in its entirety. Senate Bill 5, which passed in 2025, did a couple different things. Affects the requirements for LQ licenses and elk permit. It removes language which previously allowed property to be under contract to purchase and qualify for landowner preference. So what this means is at the time of application, when someone submits the documentation, they must own the property. They cannot no longer be in a contract purchase. Also adds language which clarifies that the land is used by elk. In that previous slide, that's what we mean by used by elk with that green layer there. Also adds definition for employee for the purpose of designating preference. We do notice that elk beef and elk permit have 2 different definitions of employee, which was unintended, and we do plan to hopefully clear that up in future legislation. Go ahead.
Yeah, question on the map, the distribution map, how often is that up?
No, unfortunately, I don't know that right now. I can get with wildlife and get back to you there, but they do update that information, I believe, every 2 years.
Robin, if you're okay, Dave's got a question too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I got a question on the handout that we got sent to us email on the second page under 87-2-705, second paragraph. It has in there that a person who owns or is contracting to purchase 640 acres or more, is that still in effect or is that not?
That is not in effect. That is a previous statute. The 2025 session is what changed that language. That was a previous statute.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Dave, I'll email you the PowerPoint too that they're working through right now as well. You
Okay.
have that.
We don't have the 2025 legislative site updated yet, so the new language in the 25 bills have not been updated in the stuff that I applied to, and that was my apology. I just have to face it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you define on the elk permit, an employee of the landowner who works full-time? Could you define what full-time is?
Can you go back, Jason? So elk permanent employee who works full-time and year-round as a part of the active farm. So I would say full-time and year-round is a 40-hour work week employee year-round. That's what got missed. The elk B was updated and the elk permit did not get updated on that one.
How is that? And I'm sorry, this is gonna be for a later discussion. I have some concerns with that. And I don't think it needs to be discussed at this moment, but how do you monitor that?
Typically, we ask during verification that someone, we take their word for it. However, if someone wanted to submit a W-2, that is up to them, but we do the best we can to make sure that they're following the program.
A lot of this is the honor system. We trust the landowner to tell us the truth. We can't verify your employment records. It's not our role. So it does come as part of a difficulty of the program. That this is in a lane that FWP doesn't necessarily, we don't have any oversight at all. So, we have no choice but to have the honor system. And this is legislation. So we can't change it. We implement it exactly as it reads and we do the best we can.
Yeah, and I understand.
Yeah.
It's not you guys, but
Yeah.
just for everybody that I'd like to have some point talk about it because it is not being done.
I think that'd be a good thing to keep on your list, Chris, for tomorrow's session, because that's exactly an example that would be good to work through as.
So I do want to make note that the previous definition was this. And on both pages, it was for elk B and elk permit, it was this. However, just the elk B got updated in the 2025 session, not the elk permit.
So the elk B is the current language.
Correct. That's the 2025 passed.
Okay.
They're not in the same statute. They're
Okay,
different.
the
So
new
when they
one.
updated one, they didn't update together.
Strength.
Right.
Yeah, I think they did for the permit pieces, stole language from the block management statute.
Okay.
The latter, not the LP language.
You can go ahead, Jason. So this is just a couple of our current challenges here that we're faced with the land owner preference program. One that I want to talk about, dividing property into multiple parcels, entities that can allow multiple individuals to claim land of preference. For example, grandma owns 2,000 acres on her ranch. She has 3 grandchildren. She wants to give them all elk permit land owner preference. However, she can't because she only owns 1 property. We do notice that a lot of people are breaking their properties out into 3 LLCs in order to claim land owner preference for that 3 times. So people can stack the land owner preference used on their property. Number 2, permits or licenses obtained by using the land owner preference program is valid for the entire hunting district and not just on the landowner's property. Number 3, it's difficult identifying and preventing multiple applications from claiming land owner preference on the same property. So I mentioned earlier that each application that walks through our doors, our licensing staff lays eyes on each application. It's a manual process that we review. We do our best to catch it, but unfortunately, if Sunshine Ranch submits 2, one for Bob and one for Lucy, we don't always catch that happens twice because we have multiple individuals working the applications and it can be hard. So there is a potential for fraud there. Number 4, we have multiple guidance statutes and definitions and requirements across programs that can cause confusion for customers and landowners. As we saw there, that previous definition of an employee, that's very confusing that we have multiples there. Number 5, landowners and their designees are not guaranteed a license or a permit, especially in areas with higher concentration of private land. So this is just a drawing example here. This is from our 2025 elk permit drawing. This is a 799 elk permit. We can see the overall quota here is 208. With a landowner, 15% of that would be 42. However, non-resident, the max is 28, which is the 10%. You can see we do the landowner portion of the drawing first, so that happens before the general portion. We see the resident applicants and the non-resident applicants. You can see 36 residents were successful and 6 non-residents successful, with a total successful of 42, which is the 15%. The remaining 238 licenses were then handed over to the general portion of the drawing. You can see the resident applicants and the non-resident applicants. You can see there was 216 residents successful and 22 non-residents successful. The total being a successful of 238. Overall, with the 42 and the 238, we have the overall quota of 280, but we do not exceed the maximum non-resident quota of 28 with the general and the landowner preference portion of the drawing. Now we're going to talk about landowner application numbers, and I'm going to hand that over to Peyton here.
All right, so what you're looking at here is just the number of resident landowner preference applications that we've approved. This is broken out by license type. You can kind of see from 2016 to 2020, sort of a downward trend. And then from 2020 through 2025, we're starting to go back up. Antelope and elk permit have been consistently the 2 highest that we get in the preference pool. The black and the blue line up top there. And then on the right side, this is just the average number of applications by license type that we've gotten over the past 10 years. Elk permit is going to be our highest at 585. Antelope at 560 is number 2. And then everything else is right in the 100s range. So same thing here, just non-resident applications. Number of approved landowner preference applications by license type. Generally, this has been an upward trend, 2016 until now. And again, antelope and elk permit are our 2 most common, the blue and black lines up there. And then on the right side, the 10-year averages of applications that we received. Elk permit's the highest at 104. Antelope is the second highest at 55. Everything else is under 25. It's a comparative pool, right around 30. And you should note that 130 is quite a bit less than the 2,550 that are available. So this is just the overall number of landowner preference applications over the past 10 years. Been broken out by license type, just overall. The resident is in blue, non-residents in orange. Then the total number of applications is in green. This graph doesn't necessarily represent individuals, since one individual can have an antelope, an elk permit, an LP. So this is strictly the number of applications. But on the right side there, up top, that's just the difference between 2025 and 2016. The application numbers. Resident numbers are down a little bit, about 117. Non-residents are up about 233. Then overall, up 116. And then down below that, 10-year average overall residents, it's 1,606 on average. Non-resident 202 on average, and overall 1,297. Okay, let's talk about drawing success a little bit. So, out of the resident landowner preference applications, how many of these are actually successful? These are 10-year weighted average, broken out by license type. Most of these are going to be about 90% draw success or above, except for deer and elk lower 74% deer permit, about 65% on the elk permit. The reason for that is just simply higher demand and lower quotas, those drawings. Same thing here, just for non-residents, how many of the non-resident landowner preferences? Again, 10-year weighted average. 90 to 100% for most of our license types, deer permit, no permit, again, a little bit lower. 52% for the deer permit, 60% for the permit. And then the priority pool with 100%, 2 years without it.
Tell us again what the priority pool is.
Priority pool is for non-resident combination licenses.
Got 2 sessions ago that was put in, actually, for the 2,500 contiguous acres.
All right, so one caveat with the non-resident bearing out permits is that non-residents have to draw their license and so that means that not every non-resident permit application that has land on it makes it to the moving line. For instance, if you didn't draw your combo license, then you don't make it that far. Of those that were approved for land on preference, 76% make it to the elk permit drawing. About 77% make it to the deer permit drawing. And then of those that actually get entered, 79% on average are successful for elk permit. 68% for deer permit are successful on average. And this is overall landowner preference drawing success. So non-resident, resident. So out of all landowner preference cases, how many people? 10-year weighted average. That's about 90% of or above the most licensed type. Then again, deer and elk permit are a little bit lower, 71% on the deer permit, 64%. Finally, just a summary, just some highlights throughout the entire presentation. Landowner preference applications have been increasing overall since 2020. Applicants are using landowner preference for antelope and permit drawings the most. Success rates are generally high for landowner preference, but are the lowest for deer and elk permits. Priority pool applications have been far fewer than the 2,500 quota, guaranteeing a successful draw in its first 2 years. Contract to purchase no longer qualifies a person to use landowner preference for elk drawings. Property now has to be owned. Legislation commonly changes or attempts to change the framework of these programs. And finally, although the programs work as they're intended, various challenges still exist for our department and
that is what we had prepared. We have to, put out another apology. We do our best to make this as simple as possible, but it is not a simple subject matter. So it's very thick and very hefty. We threw a lot of information at you in a matter of minutes. If you want to go through every slide from top to bottom and ask all your questions, we are happy to explain any of those things. If you'd like to do it another way, we're happy to do that. We're here to answer all your questions.
What's a permit and what's a license?
Okay. We get started at ground zero. A permit or a license is what the law actually gives you to kill and maintain the carcass of an animal. A permit expands or restricts an opportunity. We like to call it a permission slip. So if you have a general elk license, then that means you can actually hunt and possess the carcass. But the permit says I can hunt it here, or I can't hunt this here, or I can hunt this here. So very, very different things. They are not interchangeable, and people frequently use them as the same word, and they are not.
They either expand or restrict your general opportunity of your license.
You could have a license and no permit, but you cannot have a permit and no license. Go ahead.
Do you have any idea, percentage wise, how many applicants were in that mode of contract to purchase? Has it been increasing in the last couple of years? Is there a way of telling that?
Yes.
And if you have to pick a license, let's say like pick elk permit, like what do you see over time with that?
Yeah, we don't have a specific percentage, but like Emily said, yes, we just seem to be seeing more. We don't have.
And I would say also anecdotally, a permit typically are seeing more people do it than any other permit or license.
And what we've seen is they submit an agreement to purchase. And then we as FWP, we never follow up to know that you actually finalize that purchase, which is why we requested that change in legislation, because we don't go back and check because that's not, or we in licensing are not land agents. We're doing the best we can, but we didn't track them because it's just too hard to track, but we did see it. We were notified of a couple heads up from the people that were watching. So that was low hanging fruit for us. So we did tackle that one. Go ahead.
That was a good catch by whomever and a good change to that. Are you seeing other loopholes hit a common thread on these applications? People trying to work the system or find ways to do it that are maybe not on the system?
I'd say kind of, the staffing that I talked about where the split out of the LLCs. I would say that's a common thread that we are seeing. People are realizing if they split them out, they can get multiple landowner preference. Anecdotally, that I can't tell you how many, but we've definitely seen and heard of more of that.
And that is legal. I mean, we kick that right over to Alex and say, that's a lawful thing to do is divide your property into several LLCs and then you can qualify. But as we mentioned a couple times, this is a manual process. We lay eyes on 2,500 of these one at a time and review them. So that in itself it makes life difficult for us because we have to make sure that we catch everything. We have no AI, we have no computer to catch the landowner preference portion. Yeah.
This will be for Everett. Is there a plan to help automate this so that there's less manual eyeballs looking at all this?
We are weighing some different ways to do this, and I'm not prepared to share that today. But we're coming up with a different way to certify instead of by the person. That there's other options out there. So, and I'm reluctant to say so right now exactly what our plan is because for a number of reasons that might not happen, but we recognize that is maybe not the way the commission is doing.
Does that also pertain to the landowner sponsored tags as well? Because that's very manual as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On that same note, I think in this document, it said that you approve or deny these. Do you send out notification to the applicant that they were approved or just if they were denied?
Just if they were denied, you get a denial letter. However, a couple things, if you do email your documentation, you get an email that says we have received your email. If you choose to mail it, you can mail it priority so you can see that it has been signed for. But you don't get any notification that you were approved.
Thank you.
So I think some of you guys have on the block before, you have a little history with FWP. So that we used to draw, it used to take us 3 months to do a drawing, to gather all of that information and to go through it and to sort that out. These plans can do that in 6 days. We can go through all of that stuff manually in 6 days, along with taking, we said 40,000 phone calls a year and answer about 15,000 emails, along with every question from FWP offices everywhere. So, and there are 9 of us. Okay, that's it. That's what we do.
So hands on deck.
Yeah, exactly. We cry a little bit in our car, it's fine. And just to produce this drawing in 15 days, it's really heavy workload. So we don't have time to send out an email or a letter that says, hey, congratulations, you successfully qualified for landowner preference, right? We're focusing on the folks that didn't, that says, here's where we need from you. And we will take that information. If we email it to you and say, hey, we need a copy of your property deed, we will wait for you to get that back to us up until the day of the drawing. Even after the application period is closed, after April 1st, we said, we need this from you. We do everything that we can to make sure that you meet those qualifications. Because if you're owed landowner preference, we want to make sure that you're considered for it.
That's why it's really important during your application to make sure you're updating your email, your phone number, your physical address. That way, the best way we can contact you, we can get in and help you if we need to.
Yeah, we do that quickly.
Go ahead.
Non-residents aren't guaranteed 10%, are they? They're up to 10%.
Correct. Maximum month. Yep. And in some quotas and draws, they are 10%. Some of them they're not.
Just the specific example I had was 10% there. Go ahead, sir.
Another question on your map. Can you follow up on what Craig had asked earlier? I look at this map and is that what you use to determine if a person qualifies for an elk permit based on the green on this map?
that is the elk layer that we use, that we look at your property on cadastral, then lay that green map over it to see if it's used by elk as determined by the department. So yeah. We make sure that your property. is within
Dale, I know where you're going.
Well, to me, it's woefully inadequate. I mean, when you look at the Miles City area, we have huge areas in here that have good elk populations that show up as white in there. So I gotta believe, and in fact, I know there's landowners that apply for landowner preference permits in there. So is there a workaround on that?
So that's the tool that we have here. So we look up your property, every single one on cadastral to make sure you give us a legal description as in something District 701. We make sure that you own it. We make sure that that's in layers over the top if you apply for up. And that is the tool the department gives us to use. That
I also want to mention we are governed by statute. So the statute does say that your property must be used by the elk that is documented by the department. That is the tool we have that we have to follow statute.
and we recognize loopholes. It's different. Yes, yeah. But again, as you guys know, our job is to follow the laws. That's the way the law reads. That's what I have to do. Not perfect, absolutely. But we don't have the flexibility here to just go around it. We don't. This is the tool we're given. Laws we're given. That's it.
I think Paul had a question first.
Well, I think what Dale was getting at, and I'm very familiar with that area too. I mean, there's a huge amount. I mean, it just sounds to me like that's not governed by law. You just need to update your. Are you denying landowners, landowner preference down in that area?
I don't know. It depends.
Or this map might not be accurate.
Right. No, that's the map that we use, Paul, but I can't blanketly say that everybody in Region 7 is not getting and.
No, I'm just wondering because there's a lot of help down there.
I don't know. And licensing, we're not the ones who do that. Those are the field biologists that update that information.
Which part of it, when they do their field surveys in February, if this map isn't accurate, then it's not. It's just because they're not doing whatever and that's stage.
I think Chris had a question too.
Yeah, I was just curious if is the deadline statute?
The deadlines are in administrative rule.
Okay.
So, and those have the full force and effective staff.
I was just thinking of, I'm trying to make it life easier. I mean,
Please, I am all ears. If there's
couldn't you just force the deadlines on some things like landowner preference, just March 1st or February 15th or something, get it in, or, and then you're getting crammed with all this stuff at the same time.
thought of that, and that's part of the plan. I won't tell you.
Okay.
So, because we haven't had it all ironed out, but yeah, we thought about qualifying landowners earlier. And, that kind of thing. I said, I don't want to share details because we haven't ironed it all out. It's still
It's been applied for the application yet, but there is other considerations for supplemental documentation.
Still conceptual.
I just wanted to.
But yes, we agree. There are better ways to do this. It's, as you can see, like it's an agency effort to do this. It's not just us. What other questions?
So was there a clause in one of these? I apologize if there was not. That dealt with qualified if you had filed a game damage complaint that the agency approved or responded.
Specifically for the elk fee there that we mentioned.
Okay, so what happens if that game damage situation is outside the green that you have distribution for? So
Those are one-off situations and pretty rare.
And that is documented by the department. So how that gets documented, you either have to contact your local biologist or your warden, and they typically come and, collect that information. They hand it over to licensing, and that is documented by the department, which we are still following. Go ahead, Drew.
Thanks. On page 4, the last bullet point, landowners so and were enrolled in FWP administrative access. Are eligible to purchase from additional point. Has that been utilized, and if so, how often?
Yeah, it's been utilized. We only have a couple of years of data. I don't have the numbers on me, but I think it's about as long as that landowners that are doing that.
Yep. Thanks.
Has there been any discussion about the 640 not being contiguous? Because I do know there are some landowners who are family ranches in my area who been maybe just broken up. Just slightly off their somebody's chunk of land that
I think that is, a discussion within the legislative body. Again, it says contiguous. And contiguous in our interpretation and our legal departments is not corner to corner, it is adjacent.
Yep,
so
no.
Does not.
Come on.
That's all we're talking about.
That's him.
Alex will be.
We don't have time for the
Let's get into it. Let's ask us some details, like stump us, come on.
Group was open.
I'll,
Go ahead.
I'll keep going.
Okay.
Already handled that. No, I was gonna ask, again, anecdotally, we see this being used more. What are you hearing from resident and non-resident landowners? Are they satisfied? I mean, everybody wants more advice, but I mean, is there a general consensus of being satisfied or not? And then if so, do you guys have a benchmark of what you see as acceptable?
I can just say that landowner preference years ago used to be a guarantee. You used to get it. I mean, anybody that applied for it got it. So what I think we can say collectively is that as those odds are going down, talk about 380 right outside of town, those odds are almost impossible, even with landowner preference. They're very, very difficult. So I think the fact that it used to be a guarantee is when it's more difficult. We don't get a lot of complaints about that particular thing in the licensing section. On the other hand, my responsibility is legislative and policy. So I spent a lot of time across the street in a suit and talking about licensing stuff. So I think that in those discussions, I think the consensus is it needs to work. We have several different programs like you saw, and they're a little nebulous. They're not squared away. They don't have really very clear parameters. They have ish ideas. And sometimes it's real easy to get out of that and to explain other things when I think there are ways to, one, consolidate all of these programs into one landowner preference program. Not have very, very separate ones, especially, we could do better there. And maybe change the contiguous. I don't know. Those are some options, but I think all of that is on the table legislatively. Again, talk, yes, but they haven't moved anything on landowner preference in the 9 years that I've been in FWP. So I think people want to, they just haven't done anything.
Stephanie, have you heard any scuttle from like resident landowners who now non-resident in certain areas have better odds of drawing than they do? You heard any of that or?
I'm going to say anecdotally, you hear about that all the time, right? And that's landowner preference regular too. It all depends. You can kind of see we have more resident landowner applicants that apply. So I will say anecdotally, you always hear about it.
And it's fair to say we have more residents in Montana than we did 5 years ago. Right. So those folks that were non-residents 5 years ago are now residents. They live here.
You guys don't have a special pool to be parsimonious with the guys that you don't like. That's right.
Right now.
Names on that list.
We just
There's
keep
no
it, we don't talk about that.
There's just a denied stamp. It's like, leave denied.
Legal counsel's recommendation, we don't write it down. No. There is no such blacklist. We do get that a lot. But I just we never recommend that you make licensing mad. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that unless we blacklist it from.
And that $100 bill in the application. The $100 bill in the application.
That's right. No checks, please.
I can't see
Just
that. Thanks.
Yeah, what else? What else? We're willing to get into bonus points, preference points, whatever you got.
Just when you get the applications, you have to sign them and say, certify that all this information is correct.
Yes. Correct.
How often do you find applications, if ever, that are really fraudulent or it's like, whoa, this person, it's not adding up.
Somebody apply to get it.
So a straight up lie?
Pardon?
A straight up lie? We do a lot of things to make sure that those never make it forward, right? When Peyton was telling you stuff, he was telling you approved applications, ones that we have said yes to. So there are applications that come through our office that were like, this doesn't qualify for many reasons. They get a letter that says you didn't qualify for this, this, and this. And because your name doesn't match our cadastral, because somebody already claimed this, because your land is non-contiguous. So we do our best there. But a couple of years ago, we started asking for more information on landowner preference. Like all of a sudden, we're asking for deeds and signatory authority. We never asked for that before. People lost their minds because we asked you to prove that you had the legal authority to sign on behalf of this landowner, and people lost their mind because all of a sudden I've been getting landowner preference for 25 years and now you're gonna make me prove it? Yes. Yes.
There's a reason for that.
You know, for
Yes.
us, we look at
That's
it,
good.
and Peyton submits an application, then we go and look at the land that he put in cadastral and it says Sunshine Ranch. How do I know Peyton and Sunshine Ranch are
The same entity.
And how do I know that you can do that? So, you know, to put my signature authority, LLC, presidentship, all of that information, which that's what we started requiring and asking.
But Peyton can sign on behalf of this corporation. Who says that? So I need proof that you can do that. And that has caused a bit of a stir.
It definitely has weeded out a lot of the potential fraud that you are talking about, though.
And I don't. Because I have no idea how big of an issue it is. If somebody, I mean, if you look at something said, this is purely fraudulent, it's not like they just messed up. It's obvious there's fraud here. Is there a penalty for that the department enforces?
No, not a penalty, but if it's clearly fraudulent and is all intent is there, we would take it to enforcement. And we would say, here's an issue, and then maybe we take it to Alex and just say, what are our options here? We don't have statutory authority to punish you for that, but also there may be other stuff going on that I don't know about. So, yeah.
I also want to mention that we have licensed fraud investigators. That is their whole purpose of their job. That's what they're doing every day to look at licenses that people receive and how they're using them. So
We hear from
that's
them pretty
happening all the
often.
time. Not just for landowner preference across the board.
Yeah.
Separate people that enforce that? Investigate the license fraud.
Yeah, they're
We
within
have licensed fraud
Yep.
investigators.
Go ahead, Greg.
You have a little bit of dynamics in these graphs, just wondering, if you could speak to the causation, some of that.
What slide are you looking at? So you
Well,
know.
like go to 17.
Okay.
So it's somewhat stable. 18, then we get a dip and then a slow, steady rise. Can you address kind of what's going on there? Besides COVID?
You know, and we always talk about COVID and
Yeah.
about stuff like that.
COVID was a huge thing for licensing at SWP, huge.
Mhm.
It knocked everything out of whack. And so it's just now, I think Peyton can talk more about it, but stabilizing back to what it was pre-COVID stuff.
I don't know that we get enough context to really explain why it dropped.
Oh.
But
You also have to look into, so these are application numbers that you're looking at 17. So we all know that Montana is getting more residents, more people that live here. So the more people that live here, the more landowner preference applications that we have because more people own land. So that could be a part of the steady rise as well.
yeah, and we're seeing rises in just our applications in general too. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's.
The drop's actually what's interesting. I was just curious, if you knew.
Yeah, I can't say that I have a specific cause, but for sure. Sorry.
Sure.
I'll keep going. Just wanted to clarify, I mean, there's multiple ways for some people to draw permits that take like an elk license, for example, they can put in for the landowner preference. And if they don't draw that, then they go into the general pool, correct? And then if they don't draw that, they could then apply for a 454 afterwards.
Correct.
Yep.
So they have three, okay, I just want to make sure that was the
Yep.
timeline correct on that.
Yes, they do.
Typically, all the people that do not receive landowner preference, we work with Jason and his staff and we send out an email that says your EHA opportunity is here. If that's something you want to do, we can notify or notice that you didn't get landowner preference. Go ahead.
Is there any discussion internally as to, should we standardize a date so there aren't three opportunities for them to get the same permit? Or where I'm going with that is, if somebody in the spirit of access and like the 454 program, for example, we we want as many cooperators as possible, right? We've worked hard to make that program a success so that we do that. But if we're actually incentivizing them not to go into that program by giving them these other opportunities first.
So I see what you're saying. I think, we kind of think, and this is just a discussion between Jason and licensing, is that we think that landowners try to get their landowner preference first, and if they don't, then EHA is another opportunity. We allow this, Drew, because Alex says it's not illegal. So the fact that it's silent to the legality of, like, it doesn't say you cannot do this, means you can't. So we recognize it, and again, the law doesn't say you can't. So those people that have caught on to that benefit, I'm sure they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think the big difference, right, with the 454s is it's valid only on their property.
Correct.
So comparatively with the district-wide permit that they may receive, all separate from the preference pool for non-resident discussion, but that's one of the primary reasons we see that. They want to try their odds with our preference of regular drawing first. If not successful there, then okay, I'll hunt my own property and also allow access to do so.
And I think that process is super consecutive. Is that right, Jason? Like, we hold the drawing, then we open up the EHA applications.
Pretty close. Yeah, we've been doing it pretty close. We'll probably run it a little bit different this next year. But anecdotally, a lot of times the emails that I send to people saying, hey, you didn't qualify or didn't get you weren't successful in our preference, but we have this access opportunity. That's the first time they ever learned that they weren't successful, and they're not real happy with me.
Don't you have somebody
What's that?
to call for you? Well,
Go ahead.
can I keep going?
Yep.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off what you're talking about, the landowner permits being valid in the entire district or unit or whatever we want to call it. Is there internal discussion? I definitely hear from people in my area about, hey, we think the landowner preference program is a good thing. It's a nice olive branch to extend to our landowners. They're doing a lot for wildlife. We don't think it's maybe, and I hate to use the word fair also, but I'll just use it anyways. Give me a better word, I'll use it. But we don't think it's fair that it's used outside of your deeded acres. Is there a discussion about that happens often, or
The topic comes up, but I think we heard from Quentin at the very beginning that, you know, it's not our job to make a recommendation to you, but it's clearly it's recognized across the board.
Yeah.
That is different.
We've heard that's a legislative discussion lots of times, and I think that's probably where it belongs.
I would double up on that. Do you hear it commonly? I guess when you hear about the themes and the comments that you guys, what we're trying to understand more is what the strength of that theme is. Something like what Drew's asking, not the legality. We appreciate that you're held by the law, but we're also trying to understand, okay, how big a deal is this when you talk to people on the phone or email or whatever? Like, how much does this come up? That particular topic?
I appreciate that, Craig. Our lawyers in the room, I gotta be a little careful.
No, just fire away.
No, across the street, I have been around many conversations that dance around it. But as you guys can see from the 30 minutes we've been here or whatever to tackle it, it's heavy. It's really heavy. And if you don't understand it, you have no business changing it. So I've been part of lots of discussions that say, should it be limited to your private land only? Could be. Isn't that?
Go ahead, Chris.
And that's my conversation tomorrow, is how it's being abused. And I make it clear, I've made it clear that it should be that you should have to hunt your own land. And there's some legislatures that are against that. I don't know why, but that's how the abuse is happening. Someone's coming in and buying 640 acres and putting in for landowner preference, and then going leasing. They got a lot of money leasing these other ranches to themselves to hunt these big elk. And that's not an abuse, but there is some abuse. I'll explain the abuses that are happening. So it is a problem, and it's a problem because you've got a big landowner like one of the big owners in our area that's actually in block management. He's got a family and he's putting in for landowner preference, kids, grandkids, whatever. And he is allowing access, and then someone's, finding the loopholes, which is always easy to do, and slithering in there and have no interest in the district that they're in for farming, ranching, hunting, or anything, just to get in there to find a big bull. And that's an issue that I'm trying to get through to the legislature in the next session, that we change it. And there's going to be people against it because I have elk on my place and then I don't have elk on my place. And so I put in for landowner preference and I'm forced to hunt on my own land. And I actually don't care because it's getting abused and it's got to change somehow.
Seems to me if we went this route where you had your own land, then it would make this obscure map almost irrelevant, because if you were putting in knowing that you had to hunt your own land,
yes,
then you would know I have elk here or I don't have elk here.
Very fair point.
If there are there are a lot of landowners that deserve better than this landowner. I'm sorry, because they've got elk, they put up with elk, and someone's got six. I'm not saying it's wrong that you only have 640 acres, but is that really an issue? I mean, the program was designed really, I think, to benefit the landowner, to help them out, because they're dealing with all these elk. But some people aren't dealing with elk. It's just like elk runs across there. I got an elk on my place and puts in, and then they go hunt everywhere else. And that was fine in the day, but now it's being abused.
Sure.
And there's money being exchanged under the table.
You're never gonna stop that though. I mean, you can't even quantify these.
Mine doesn't.
So just an observation, in as many programs as we've looked at over all these years, we've been all looking at access programs. This is a program designed for the relational aspect of landowners. In the beginning, we're primarily agricultural operators. And so the habitat that they've created, provided, taken care of, whether it's one section or 100 sections, and I think all these attempts to change this, to tune it and to fit the parameters of resident, non-resident preference, which land has made it such a convoluted equation that you really can't even manage it. And the funny thing is, you can, as you're talking, Chris, you can make this now 2,500 acres, you get one. But does the ranch that has 27,000 acres divided at 5 or 10? Which is exactly what Chris is talking about, and they're a cooperator. And then to Drew's point on, we didn't come back to this, but we talked about it before. An EHA gives you permit. Block management doesn't. So when we look at access, we're rewarding for the most cooperation. As we went through EHA, and I don't want to get off on that particular tangent. When we looked at EHAs, we looked at them separately from the whole and said, well, it does provide some more access, but now we've given them something that has grown in value. Okay, they didn't need cash or impact or weeds or fences or whatever, but now it's a better value that with the complication of this program, you can call it what you want, looking for the loophole, gaming the system. It's like the contracts in Eastern Montana. That's definitely gaming the system. Now we've sort of fixed that loophole, but what's next? So yeah, heavy lift, I think, just because there's so many angles coming at this, and really, if we go back to the genesis, what's this for? What is the recognition, reward, compensate, whatever you want to call it? What's this for, and how do you make it the most equitable In this case, it's a landowner. I mean, somewhere it says in here for crops, is cattle a crop? It says crops.
No, and it refers to a statute, but it's just.
I know, I
Yes,
know.
it
But
does not.
if
Yep,
we want to argue about it,
you're right.
We've actually dealt with that.
yeah.
There was a question.
Cattle eat crops.
Whether cattle were crops.
I think you got it, but you hit it, and then
Okay,
exactly,
so-
is that everybody's, people have touched these individually a lot of times and never collectively. And in doing so, they've complicated it exponentially.
Go ahead, Lee.
I have a friend that he has elk on his property, but they're right after the oats come up. And they come in and eat the oats. And then as soon as somebody shoots, they all run to someplace else where nobody shoots. And so how do you do it? You see, how do you do it? So, you know, he has elk on his property, but it's not when you're legally not supposed to shoot at them then, you know, and so how it's convoluted. How do we do this so that it's still Montana when we get all done? You know, that's the challenge. It's kind of getting like the king and the gamekeepers now anymore.
Stephanie, so I'm just curious, is the point of the next 2 days, is it for our group to kind of come up with suggestions to you guys, some kind of bullet points? What, I mean, I know we're exploring it, but what's the end game here for us? Like what
do we do?
What are we doing beyond
do
just
we do?
discussing?
A lot of statute too.
Well, it is statute. That's
Right, so I'm saying, what
what do we recommend?
Okay.
That's where it boils down to. I mean,
Perfect.
And I think, don't you have to go back to the genesis? What's this for?
Correct.
And right now, like you said, Chris, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought of somebody buying a section of land just to hunt. They don't do anything on it. They put a cabin on it and they hunt. We wouldn't have thought of that so much.
Nobody had that much money. Not 10 years ago.
Or could just,
They found
but
us.
whatever, it's a reality now.
Yeah.
And I think this is the challenge for this council, to look at these things in the big picture. And all we get to do is make a recommendation.
Right.
But the recommendation should have that understanding behind it that congeals it and makes it more right. Call it equitable, whatever you want to call it. More fair. The best program it can be that we think we could put forth as a recommendation.
And basically what I'm saying, I don't know if the answer's right to just say you have to hunt on your deeded property, but this is rearing its head and it needs to be taken care of, and it's not being taken care of, and it just, what's next? And it was designed for this, and now it's doing this, and we have to stop it.
This doesn't exist.
So it can be one of your points. And I think obviously, as we look at this, there's going to be more than one point.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Clearly, that could be one point that gets addressed, even if it's the only one that gets addressed. But clearly there's others.
Yeah, and as you guys work through this and you guys make your recommendations and culminate that, we're here to help you with any questions you have about that, which is why we are appreciative to be in the room, because I'll say this to everybody, if you're gonna mess with licensing stuff, you need us there. You have no idea what else you're going to expect. So, you know, as these conversations for the next couple of days go on, fire us questions, any questions about, let us help you through, but the recommendation, if any, comes from you.
But licensing? Maybe.
Maybe, we'll see.
Try it. Appreciate you giving us the difference between license and permit and landowner preference. Can you also expand and talk real quick about party applications and how that comes into the mix and the fold?
We don't know anything about those.
So I do want to make a note that you can't do a party application for land owner preference. So if you apply for an elk permit, you can't do a party application. However,
We take you out of that party and the rest of the party moves on without you. You go in as an individual, if you're claiming land owner preference. You have to choose a priority here. Are you gonna be with the party or are you gonna be LOP?
because the way a party works, if one person draws it, everybody draws it. So you can't get more than for preference. That's why you can't do it in a party. There's 5 individuals in a party. The way that you can do it is one person applies and says, I'm the leader. They get a party number at the end of the application. And then they give that party number to the other individuals. So the other 4 members, 2 members, 3 members. And then during the application, it says, do you want to apply as a party? It says yes. It says, are you the first member of the party? They say no. And then they enter the number. And that's what ties them together. And how party applications work in the drawing is one number party goes in and that number of the party is selected. And then all of the people get a license over.
So it's just one number, just the party.
Correct. And then we add up your bonus points and we take a average of your guys' collective bonus points per party. So go ahead.
So another question on party applications. Let's say the party application is for an archery permit. Do all of the people putting their name on that permit have to have a bow hunter's education certification in order to make that permit valid? For the application valid?
So the application, it is not valid for that. You don't have to purchase a bow and arrow before, but before you would go hunting for that, then you would need to purchase your bow and arrow license.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lee.
So I'm still trying to figure out, I've been around here quite a while, but how the hell many bonus points should it take? How do you get them?
You know,
You just write a check out to the park for $200,000 and get that bonus
I told you
points.
cash only, no check.
You know, bonus points are a tricky thing. There's no magic number that gets you anything. Bonus points are like lottery tickets. So, you know, the Montana Millionaire, you buy 5 tickets or you buy 1. Who has a better chance of drawing? But does that mean the person with 5 tickets is guaranteed to get the lottery? No, you just have a better opportunity. So it still is random.
How does it work? Was it made to reward the people that signed up every year and put in an application? For square. How do you get them?
That's intent.
Purchase your bonus point during your application. So when you're applying for an elk permit, it says, do you want to purchase an elk bonus point? You say yes or no. If you say no, you don't get a bonus point for that year. If you say yes, you pay the $2 as a resident, and then it adds to your total for your bonus points.
Oh, okay.
So you don't just automatically
When you
get
get
one,
up
you
to
must
50,
purchase.
pick up.
I mean, no one's at 50 yet, so we're not sure.
Kind of more likely.
Yeah,
Right?
you might have better odds of getting a pickup than.
There's no max, just however many.
But they've only-
Yeah.
So the only way you can get bonus points, I've got friends that have put in for the Breaks elk license for 40 years and then grew. They have 40 bonus points, or do you have to pay the $2 every time?
I think we're
So
only up to like 20
First bonus
something
point
right
system
now.
was established in 2001. So the max that you can absolutely have is
20.
Yeah.
But you have to purchase one besides making application for permit.
So there's 2 ways to get a bonus point. You can either do it at the time of application. So in March, you apply for your elk permit and you say, I want to apply for this, I'm going to purchase a bonus point. However, if that year you said, you know, I didn't really care about applying for an elk permit, then from July 1st to September 30th, you can purchase a bonus point in the summer. But you can only do that if you did not apply for that license. So if you applied for elk permit and you said, no, I don't want to purchase a bonus point, you cannot purchase one in the summer. You only have one opportunity a year to purchase that. Go ahead, Paul.
And get this, they square your bonus points.
Oh, now you're just.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you wasn't that good at math.
So if you score bonus points, you get put in 16 times.
17 times.
Oh, 17?
Yeah.
Okay.
Square plus 1.
Okay.
I'm going to show a bonus point demonstration here that we have on our web.
We prepared for this.
Oh, good. We got the smart people here today.
That's preference.
That's no preference points, so that's different.
So was there a difference?
That's totally different.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, one.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Dinner, I mean.
I was gonna say.
Okay, so we're going to specifically show you bonus points. Do not mix those with preference points. It's very different. We can talk about preference points in just a minute. But we created this visual a couple of years ago. Peyton can walk you through it real quick. He's the drawing guy. He's the guy you want to be nice to.
So this is just the formula that
You're the little
translates.
brown person right there, Lee. That's you.
This is just the formula that translates to drawing chances. So it's your one application plus number of bonus points squared equals how many chances you get drawing. Well, that comes out to looks like this. 1 bonus point, 2 chances, bonus points 5, 10, 17. goes up exponentially over time.
But you have to buy that thing every time.
Yes.
You don't get it just because you already paid your fee and put in for license.
You have to buy, you have to pay to play.
Gotta check the box.
You have to pay to play. Yeah.
Yes.
Because some people do
And also,
not believe in the system. and
Don't
they
buy a
don't
bonus
pay.
point, you don't use bonus points for the drawing, so purchase of a bonus point drives.
So has anybody ever got to the 24th level? or-
Yes.
So.
My sheep tag.
I was gonna say, I was like, there's probably a lot of people in this room with 24.
What Peyton's saying there is if you have
I
15
probably
bonus
will
points
die before I get one.
and you
Right.
want to apply for a district that has, you know, a greater
Huh?
odds, you're probably gonna get it. If you don't want to use those 15 bonus points, you
Yeah.
can choose not to
I say
purchase
that
one
to
that year.
myself.
You can reserve those bonus points to stay. However,
Hey,
you
my
will
son
not
did that.
increase,
15.
but you will reserve them.
But Lee, you may never draw. So
I don't even put in.
You may never-
Sometimes
never
don't
draw
have any
blood.
help.
Correct.
because it's, some of it's saturated like the sheet.
Correct. Yeah. Or like 270, 50 for.
How does that work with,
And he's
examples of
eligible
other things
to
that
draw
can happen?
another one.
Like,
That's what.
you can continue to put in for your bonus points for sheep, these guys are talking about sheep. But then if you put in for the unlimited, do you spend your points?
So right now, the way it's set up is it works exactly like every other drawing. So if you hit that bonus point, if you hit yes, when you draw your unlimited sheet, they're gone.
They're gone. Okay.
You're using them up on an unlimited opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, which don't matter anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful there.
I do want to mention for the 2026 license year, you will not be able to purchase a bonus point if you
So they
apply
gotta-
for an unlimited
But
opportunity.
then you get it.
So you
right?
can't use them and you can't lose them.
So you would retain your old points.
Correct,
Yeah.
but you cannot gain a bonus point that year.
So it's gonna make
Because
it
the
so you
only
can't
way
gain-
to, yeah, the
You can't
only,
gain or lose.
Okay.
We covered that in season setting just a second ago. If anybody was paying attention, we did address that in the sheep license stuff. We said, hey, we would like to make the recommendation that if it is an unlimited opportunity, that you not use up your bonus points. To do that, we needed commission approval. It was not our authority to just do that. So you'll see that next year in 26 because of that change in December. What else? Bonus points. What else? You got more questions about bonus points? I know you do.
No preference.
Preference. Do you want to move to that? Okay.
Which preference are you talking about?
so a preference point is for non-residents only. So as a resident, you can never hold a preference point. They're used for your non-resident combination license. That is your general license as a non-resident. Preference points work in a true preference system. In Montana, there is a max of 3. So ideally, 3 gets a license before 2, before 1. However, 75% of licenses in preference points are set aside for people that have preference points. 25% is set aside for people that have 0 preference points. So ideally.
Just so non-resident.
Yep, correct, just non-resident licenses. So sometimes with 0 preference point, you have a better chance of drawing than someone that has 1. But you take the option to not be able to accrue preference points also. I'm gonna go to Jason really quick. Like kick you off. Sorry.
We get these questions all the time, so we were ready to address whatever. Yeah. We've talked about this a time or two. I don't know if you guys picked that up. but- Yeah.
What the stats of the preference points page, Peyton?
I think there's a graphic somewhere. Let me see.
So
on the
75-25 split, when we talked about that, that's to address the issue where we used to have outfitter sponsored licenses. So when we changed that back to 2011, that's when we did that. Is that we split that so the DIY hunter has an opportunity as well. So they're not hunting with an outfitter, so they can't purchase that extra preference point. So those guys that are just out there on their own, they do have an opportunity to draw a non-resident license. Again, this is just applicable to non-resident combination licenses, not the B licenses, not move sheep and goat, not any of those, just those combo licenses.
Here's kind of an example of how preference point drawing works. So 2.2 to 3 preference points, that's what guaranteed 100% draw. 2 points is where kind of that breaking point where some draw and some don't. And then from 0.2 to 1.8, that's where nobody draws. That's kind of the no man's land. And then the 25% of the quota goes to people with 0 points into a random draw. So that can shake out to be different. Right here it was 60%.
So how do you accumulate preference points?
You buy it.
Have to apply every year until you scout 3 times and then you got 3 preference points.
Yep. So you buy it when you, same thing, either when you apply or from July to December, you can buy it if you didn't apply.
So what's it cost? Today's student.
$100.
$100.
And they're only non-residents, so.
Yeah, I also want to
You
make.
never have to have a preference point. You are always preferred, but you don't have to.
No, I don't. I'm just trying to figure this all out.
Bonus points never expire as long as you are alive. However, preference points expire. If you don't apply in consecutive years, you will lose all your preference points. So if I applied in 25, then I have 2 preference points and I don't apply in 26, all my preference points are gone. I must start over.
So when I'm from Winnemucca, Nevada, and they get 5 friends or 4 friends, reference points, I can't use them. I have to get licenses with them.
It's not the same license. A preference point is for your general license. However, you as a resident can just buy your general license. Yep. Go ahead, Dale.
It should be noted that that's 23. So it's different now.
Right.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for you to print this slide and give it to us on the preference? I think it'd be helpful to have that.
We'll bring it with us tomorrow.
This is just a graphic. I can try.
Yeah. Would you like that little person bonus point?
Yeah, the bonus
Okay,
point. Go
we'll
ahead and
print
just.
a slew of stuff. Can bring it.
Thank you.
True.
Is there a mathematical possibility of us ever getting to 3 points and the percent to draw is below 100%?
Could happen, but
For preference points?
Yeah. And are we graphing this? We project that maybe by 2050 that could happen, or is there any sort of like forward thinking on that?
You know, it's hard to say because you lose it if you don't apply in consecutive years.
Mhm.
So
You
do we know
a
you're gonna
max of 3, so it's really a very small window.
and when you get
1%
3,
die off.
Yeah, yep.
you know, when you get 3, you go to 0. I think Paul had a question first, and then I'll go to you.
I just wanted to make a reference. The outfitter preference point came about, what, 4 years ago?
2020.
It was in the 23.
And I'm just kind of tooting the horns of outfitters right now. But we got that extra preference points because we had a little easier chance of drawing our clients, right? So in that 4 years, that $100 went into 4 access programs. And in 4 years, we've raised $2.98 million to go into these access.
Hope thanks is enough.
Huh?
I hope thanks is enough.
I mean, I just,
So out of curiosity, with that preference point for outfitters, what is, did 100% of your clients
No.
buy those? It's still not 100%.
so if we,
So the way it works
So
is,
that's a bummer.
they can purchase an additional preference point. So I'm going in with 0, and I purchase 1 general preference. Then because I'm hunting with an outfitter, I get to purchase an additional outfitter.
So then you go into the 2,
I
so
go
you're
in
an
with the 2.
83.
So you're gonna
Correct.
draw.
Okay,
Or
so you've got
another
way
thing-
better odds.
so say I'm gonna hunt in 26.
You're gonna eliminate that orange,
The 0.
the 0.
Yeah, if I want to hunt in 26, you can buy a preference point till December 31st. I'm gonna buy a general preference point right now. I hold 1. In 26, I'm gonna buy a general preference point and I'm
And
gonna
my
buy my
outfitter.
outfitter.
If you didn't hunt last.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
If you did not hunt last year.
Okay, so if
then
you
go into
book
the
the
drawing.
hunt, then you can plan out ahead and guarantee that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I wouldn't
that's
say
good.
guaranteed because I don't want to say the word guaranteed, but you're a high chance.
Alex doesn't want you to say that either.
Yep. He's trained us well. I also want to mention that if you apply with an outfitter preference point, your outfitter is required to endorse you. So through the law, what we do after we get the people that are successful on that list, before we actually mail out the licenses, we send the outfitters your list to say, hey, Bob, see your 5 clients that used your name and listed your number and said they are hunting with you. Can you please endorse these clients? Once they've all been endorsed, then we send out the licenses to those individuals. That's typically about, I don't know, 2 weeks after the drawing. We give them 2 weeks to respond. We also call, email. Peyton and I track you on Onyx to try to find your son's phone number to call you. So please make sure you're updating your information with Department of Labor so we can find you.
Does that take
I think Dale's first and then we'll cycle this way.
So question for one of you. Well, less than 2 weeks ago, the commission. And one of the things that came out of the commission were, I think it was a proposal by Chairman Leslie Robinson to take the 5,000 licenses that were the Bartlett licenses, and then that was modified to 2,500. I was not able to listen to the actual commission meeting. Was there a projection in terms of what that would mean? in terms of non-resident applicant success broken up between outfitted and non-outfitted, non-resident hunters?
I have it. I got some numbers here for you.
Dale, it isn't necessarily 2,500. It's 50% of what is orphaned. So if next year only 3,000 people orphan those tags, it's only 1,500.
Okay, that's
That makes
good.
sense. So it's not a capped at 25.
Takes probably aren't understood.
Okay, one second.
I don't think people understand
Jason,
it
and
at
I'm gonna
all.
pull something up that's gonna
Clarify.
explain
that.
this.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
On the orphan deer, and then we can answer. Richard. Go ahead, Richard.
So to be clear on the bonus points, if, say I talked to somebody and they said, well, I want to hunt with you in 2028. And he bought a preference point right now, 2025. He bought one in 2026. And he bought one in 2027. That's 3. So he would go to apply, he wouldn't have any, right? Because he loses some if he doesn't use them in 2027, to be clear, right?
Correct. Yep.
He didn't apply in zone 6.
No, he did. So he bought a point. So there's no, it's 3 years. It's not, there's no, yeah,
3 consecutive.
3
Yep.
consecutive. That's the word I was looking
Yep.
for.
And that'll get you.
Yeah.
So.
Is there a reason why we make those expire?
Yep, the law.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep, law says so.
Money.
So Drew had a question first, and then we'll go back to orphan.
Oh, I was gonna ask on the validation from the outfitter. I'm sorry, I pointed at you.
Sorry.
So when the outfitter validates those permits or those tags, does that tag say that? Because I think it says that you can only hunt
Correct.
with an outfitter. So
Mhm.
can they? So they can't go on their hunt with their outfitter, be unsuccessful, and then just go hunt on their own, can they?
That is correct. They have to be with an outfitter. However, let's say Chris endorsed them and he's gonna hunt elk with Chris, but he was unsuccessful in archery and he's gonna find someone else for rifle. That is okay, as long as they are with an outfitter in the
Okay.
field. It does not necessarily matter that it is Chris that endorsed them.
Okay.
Just we understand things happen during the year, so, you know, something happens.
As long as you're
Outfit,
with an
gotta
outfitter.
Move clients around, we understand.
But you hunt one with deer, one with. Okay.
To
Does the
get
tag
that
say
point,
that?
in order to.
It says, outfitter preference, and then it lists,
Yeah.
Peyton, do you remember exactly what it says on it?
On an outfitter license? On it?
I think it says outfitter endorsed or.
Outfit, yeah, I think it says outfitter endorsed, that's right.
Doesn't name the
Only
outfit.
valid when hunting.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't say Chris's name, it just says outfitter.
And when awarded, it'll say it on your license or your digital wallet if you have that.
Buyers, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So if he was just hunting public land, just out by himself and got stopped by the warden,
Yeah.
would.
You get that. Yes, yep. He
No
has.
trouble. That's what's good about it.
I have a question
Go ahead.
on those preference points. Does it only apply to the non-resident combo, or does it apply to all these others like the non-native? The
No.
Come
Only-
home to hunt people.
Only the combos. The come home to hunt, the native ones, they don't have a quota, so they don't need a preference point.
Gotcha.
All right, well, resume our orphan deer conversation.
It's a presentation that we gave to the legislature a couple times, and we gave it to the commission a couple times. So this particular presentation is big, and it's about non-resident license trends. And it kind of goes over revenue. We're happy to share this with you too, where that money goes or how much it's earned. This is a slide from that talks about, this is actual drawing data from the 2025 drawing. And this will kind of help these guys explain how orphan deer is orphaned.
Yeah, so the 17,000 quota is for big game and elk combinations both. In this example, 12,222 big game combos were issued, 4,778 elk. And so every time an elk is issued, it actually, you can think about it this way, it starts as a big game. So every time an elk is issued, it splits in. That's what we call the orphan deer, 4,778. Where that comes into play is we also have 2,000 landowner sponsor licenses. The leftovers get added to the general deer quota. So the base quota is 4,600 plus the unclaimed landowner sponsors, plus the 4,778 orphan deer, comes out to about 10,000 deer.
So what I want to make note with Chair Robinson's change, so specifically for this one here, what she changed, so 50% of the 4,778 orphan deer would no longer be added to that total quota of the 10,441. So that's what specifically changed with her
Right.
amendment.
She wanted to take it all away.
No.
No. It's 5,000 for what you
Her
wanted.
original.
Her initial was, the orphan deer, so it wasn't necessarily just 5,000 up to 5,000, but there was some changes and it is at 50% of that.
So whatever the
But
drawing.
that
shakes
doesn't
out to-
include the landowner sponsored ones though.
Nope, the landowner sponsor get reissued. Yep, those 1,000. So whatever it shakes out to next year, it won't be 4,778. Whatever that is, we're supposed to cut it by half.
So this specifically, we would only add 2,389 to that instead of the 4,000. Go ahead, Paul.
Half of those licenses, how much budget shortfall did that cause you guys? And block management,
Say that number again.
1.7 million.
how much for block management?
It's like program the way the money is, so it's kind of.
But the bulk of it is access.
Roughly about 500,000, no?
I think it's split 3 ways, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, we don't have Lena here right now, but.
Yeah, that's a
It's
Lena
definitely
question, but I
access.
remember the big number, Alex, unless you remember something else.
Jason has got the.
I think it's close to about $500,000 specific to, because that's just taking 28.5%, which is the earmark. On the total revenue.
I do want to make note that, there's some other changes that we want to also make note for 26. Non-resident licenses do follow a CPI, so they do increase every year. So the price of them is always changing. Also, the 25 session did pass. Base hunting licenses are now $50 for non-residents. So some changes there with some revenue.
What else? That can't be it, you guys. What else?
So that non-residents buy that $50 hunting license fee, whether they draw, they don't, they spent that.
Good point. Peyton can address this a little bit better than I do, but everyone that applies buys a base hunting license. So if you look at our report and you say, we have 85,000 non-residents, that's not right. That's 85,000 non-residents applied. We keep that base license fee along with your conservation license. We do have a number of what the actual boots on the ground are for residents and non-residents for license year 24. I have it.
Because a lot of the $50 is the non-residents they're just applying for a sheep or a moose or. So
Or any-
that's some of that they're saying there's 85,000 non-residents. It's not true. So misleading.
Well, I think you need to count the actual license sales.
License sales also aren't always a good representation because myself, I can hold 3 deer licenses, 3 elk licenses, an upland game bird license, a fishing license. So we got 15 licenses, but I'm still one person. I'm not 15 people. So license sales are not always a good representation of the people here.
But the B10s and B11s, those, if you count those up, those are individual.
Those are individuals. However, a non-resident could also hold
Yeah, but you can,
B license.
but adding, I'm not counting, but if you just separate out the A licenses, the B10s and B11s, you can get a pretty close exact count of how many non-residents are getting those licenses, boots on the ground, correct?
Those very specifically, yes.
However, there could be non-residents here that are just hunting upland game
Yeah,
birds
I
or
understand.
deer
that.
bees.
I'm just talking about the
Yes.
B10s and
And
B11s.
they don't fluctuate, right? Statutorily, it's the same.
Except for the
Has
orphan.
been-
Has that number increased greatly over the last 10 years?
So it's a cap, right? We're oversubscribed. We have about 55,000 people applying for 23,000 licenses. So yeah, it's filled every year. We get 17,000 B10s and 4,600 B11s. Peyton does have a number for you though.
Yeah, so we have a report we can run that actually tells us how many unique license holders there are in the system. We ran it for license year 24. Residents is 176,464. Resident hunters.
Can you get us a copy of that?
We can shoot you that number too.
Resident, 61,140.
It's still pretty high.
This number is really important to FWP because this is the number we send to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to get our PRDJ apportionment.
What were those numbers again?
So that's why we need to know how many actual human beings are here. Give them that report and then Peyton will run another report to tell them. To tell the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service how many licenses were sold and for how much.
Are these individuals?
So we use that for our
Oh, okay.
apportionment.
I joined, so. You can still share that, but so I don't have to kick you.
That includes,
No.
includes.
Go ahead, Dale.
Question.
Does, bears, turkeys, still people on the land. So.
Is there discussion within the department to separate in the combination licenses to take away the upland game bird? It just seems really silly to me that every non-resident that draws a big game license gets an upland game bird license. And I am not familiar with any other states that operate that way. And it just seems like it's
So it takes.
it'd be interesting to know if it would be a net loss or a net
How many?
a net positive if for the non-residents that wanted to come here and hunt birds if they had to buy that license. Because I mean, I'm guessing there's many people that just come here to hunt birds, so that's what they buy. And it's just, I've always kind of wondered what the reason is behind that.
What was the resident number? 176?
176 never hunt bird. A lot of guys.
Yeah.
Turkey.
So those combination
Still
licenses. in
pressure on the land
statute-
state, though.
Yeah,
In statute, it says a B10 is a general deer license, a general elk license, an upland game bird, and a seasoned fishing. That's what it is. So if we take those out, we have to do a statutory change to take them out. But I'm not disagreeing with you. We also have no estimate of how many people actually are on the ground with hunting upland game birds. You have a license or the seasoned fishing also. We don't have an idea about who is actually using the licenses. We issued them, we packaged them, we charged you more. But again, if we take that out, there'll be a revenue loss. And the department they're not gonna support a revenue loss. They're just not.
It'd be interesting though to include that in your hunter surveys and say, okay, you drew a combination license. I mean, I know they have a section that they'll say how many game birds, but it'd be really nice to have a little bit of focus on that. Just say, okay, our surveys show that 12% of the people that drew big game combination license hunted upland game birds. It'd just be interesting to know
Yeah, for sure.
what that is.
And we are not disputing that. We made that recommendation for wildlife too. When you do your surveys and people get different kinds of information. I think that's all being discussed at a different level. And fortunately, I'm involved in those conversations, so it's helpful for us to know, but they're happening at a larger scale from the commission meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago. How we're gonna survey that data.
I would be curious to know the number for resident hunters, 176,000, whatever that number is. I'm just curious to know maybe what that was in, say, 2012 or 2015, how much that has changed. I mean, ballpark. That's a lot.
We have that too.
Put a T.
Yeah. What else?
I'd like to point out, beyond the hunters, the resident anglers, that is crazy to me. And I feel like that's number one, why we need to focus on these fishing access sites. And number two, when there's 260,000 resident anglers and 223 non-resident anglers is insane to me. That's a lot of pressure on our rivers. Like crazy.
Okay, so as soon as Rich gets that number,
So you said 2012,
Yeah.
what do you, resident hunters, is that the number you're looking for?
Yeah.
So resident hunters in 2012, 1,896,96. I'm just gonna say that, so it's easier for me to write down. Yeah, 190,000.
189,690.
There was more.
More rivers.
So how many non?
No, I was like,
Got an
How many
idea.
non-residents?
Yeah.
39,621.
we should just take over.
I do wanna.
Let's.
Outside. You're coming up with good ideas.
That's a Trump thing.
why don't we take a break? For break anyways, but let's take a quick break. Thank you guys. Sam.
I really.
That was good.
I think it's more.
I gotta keep my brain.
Hey,
out.
guys.
That is gonna-
Well, I'm not going to disagree.
Whoa.
Okay.
Katie, can you hear us and see us now?
Are we doing it? That's always looked better to do.
Where's the money?
I'm probably
Dave,
you on
can you hear
this
us and see us?
W9. The landowner.
Yeah, because that's tomorrow. I
Should be green.
Dave, can you hear us?
I can hear and see and hear you,
Yes, I can hear you now.
That's good. Thanks, Macy. We had crashed, so
100%. Right.
thanks, Pat.
The wardens know.
We're good.
Like loopholes.
Fresh.
This is what happens.
Sorry.
It's not good for, it's not good for.
Right.
Except ash on the table. which-
Well, yeah, I mean,
All right, now we're. We got like an hour and 15 minutes. To continue. The landowner preference. Questions. And I'm gonna let any ideas for tomorrow, but. So. I'm gonna go around this time a little bit. And see if you have any particular questions that you didn't get asked. Or maybe a point. So I'm gonna come over here to Cindy. Where do you want me to start tomorrow? Right. So where we've been, Lee, do you have any other questions or?
No, it's a lot more complex than I agreed with. It just seems like the more complex it gets, the harder it is to accomplish what we want to do with it. And, but I understand. So you get all these out of state guys that come in and buy these big ranches, well, their friends are all from back there. And so, you know, how do we, most of them then get frustrated with the system and just don't let anybody. You know, because they can't get a license or whatever, it seems like the perception I have. I don't know, hope we can make it better.
Okay. How about Dave? Dave, do you have comments, observations at this point you'd like to share with group here?
Yeah, there's one, I just want to second what Dale and Paul touched on the green map that they use for elk, for land preference or landowner preference. That map, in my opinion, is probably 10 years behind. Because there's elk in Region 7. In Region 7, there's elk way more areas than what they're showing.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
I got a comment. I don't know if this is the time to do it on the last meeting minutes.
Is it within this or a little different?
No, it's not.
So can you hold that and
Yes,
bring
I
it
can.
finish today?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Stephanie,
I don't have anything.
come on.
Nope. I'm with Chris here on the W9s. I think that that's a loophole that if we're requiring landowners to show their deed, that they should be showing a W9. Yep.
Okay. Mr. Faber.
Yeah, just the W9, the reason for that is there's people being paid on the table to put them down as that. And I'm not the only one that knows it. There's some FWP guys up to that know it, but there's nothing they can do about it. So it just needs to change. And I got to be careful when I say that, you know, somehow we got to try to change the hunt on your own land, but something, maybe that's not fair to some landowners because they do hold a lot of elk and they run off to the neighbors, whatever. Somehow it's got to be revised. I don't know how we do that. I just would really like to have a plan for that, to go to the legislature.
Right now, I'm good. Sure, I'll have questions.
I'll have a comment. I don't have any more questions. I asked a lot of questions. Thank you guys again, really. I would just say, it's really good to understand these things in this level of detail. Because as we look at, what Ed started with on the intent of this, the relationship building portion of this, as we look at as a group, to try and constantly improve that. We do a lot of things in the state wildlife, speaking, the way we used to do it, right? So we do licensing, a lot of the things the way we used to do it, and then it's these little micro changes as we go, and square peg, round hole, right? And now we're seeing some of these issues and complexities, and it's okay to change things. And I think that's just tomorrow or even later this afternoon, we talk more about it, but like, what are some of those potential changes that we suggest? I think it's okay to suggest some things that we modify and do. So we know that, things we suggest don't always get done. It's important to flesh it out, and having a good baseline of information was really good today.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, I just echo. Drew said, thank you all again for your time. Helpful and pushing you a little bit just because we're wanting to know the details to make good decisions, I guess. But too, Ed, thanks, Mr. Chairman, for getting us back to kind of the original intent. And it's certainly not that things don't change over time, but I think that's a good grounding effort, to kind of certainly look at that when we're kind of working. So thank you for that.
Paul.
I have to agree with Stephanie and Chris on that, the employee. And maybe we need to work out something on the 640 acres, something on that own property or hunting the whole region. I want to thank licensing people. They've been great. That's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the same kind of thing everybody else is talking about. I think the general elk distribution map could be updated, revised. I mean, I know everybody's talking about Region 7, how that needs to be expanded. And, I know up in my little corner of the world, we have, a lot of people that qualify legally for that landowner preference, don't have any elk on their place, or if they do, it's extremely rare. So, I don't know. I don't know these challenges we're talking about, and you guys listed them up there, but it's I don't know if there's always going to be something. I think that things just need to be shored up a little bit, and keep people from being fraudulent, taking advantage of the system. So,
okay. So. Rewind this a little bit. Maybe we could come back to this presentation. What in licensing, what do we see? If I just ask, number one, conflict, problem, challenge.
Specifically land preference and troubles statute guiding different programs that are similar to that. I would also say, the potential for fraud and not knowing who applies, and if they apply multiple times for one property, those are too big a challenge, I would say.
Would you lump that under like the honor system that you kind of said it as earlier?
Yeah, in Sunshine Ranch, Peyton and I both playing frictions and brother and sister, and how does the department determine who gets that? Who turned it in first or for that? And we don't know if I already did it or if I did it. So some of that can be hard as well. And multiple statutes guiding program and different definitions makes it real hard and complex to follow.
Some say ag property, some say contiguous. Like, so we think that if you had one statute to cover them all, maybe specific bullets says Deerdale,
Section
here's the
1.
qualifications, here's the qualifications. Just really, and that's it. The applicant has got to be confusing too.
I want to mention when there's multiple statutes, so also then, so let's say there's 5 statutes. The next session, someone wants to change the definition of an employee. They catch it in 3. They don't catch it in the other 2 statutes. And the next year they change something in 2 of the statutes, but they forget the other 3. And, you know, having it in multiple places makes it really complex to make sure everybody is dotting their i's and crossing their t's for all the programs.
Which is exactly what happened with 235 this year. They addressed the L part, but never touched the L permit until after it had gotten out of the House. And then when it got in the Senate, then they flipped the other half on it because they said, "Can touch one." Cool, so that's why it, and then it still ended up incorrect. So
In one place, you can simplify any changes that are being made.
Isn't there a way that they bring all these bills to you, don't they? And it's just probably hard for you to track them all, I suppose, huh?
we track every single one of them, but they don't bring them to us. No, and sometimes legislators, there's lots of them that will listen to me. There's a handful that absolutely don't want to hear anything I have to say.
That's great.
Oh, so I'll say, this is complicating, this is contrary to statute, this is they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen, they're not
Required to take.
but most of them are really gracious about coming to us and getting our input and saying, we don't want to mess anything up for you. But there are others that don't do that.
What about the bill writers though? Couldn't they maybe try to work the kinks out of that?
They do, absolutely. I'm very close with those guys as well. But again, it's their legislative. They don't have to come to me in this thing.
So to your point, Paul, I think if we want to affect that, the best thing we can do is clarify on our understanding, whichever one of these issues or all of them, that we have an idea on as far as simplification or clarification, and help create that to present. I think back when we talked about this in August with a legislative session coming to EQC or to particular legislators, that's really the route to get language drafted that can specifically bring it together. And it takes a lot of time. I think, you know, if we take that track between now and the end of the summer, you can maybe have something that brings the different landowner preference pieces together, shine a focus on the complications and the places where it's been taken advantage of or manipulated, or whatever you want to call it, and bring it into one solution, which is possible. And that'll be good for a year till the next session, you know, but at least if you can bring that focus together, maybe you can clearly focused situation or menu of remedies. Wait,
Would it be appropriate to ask for these guys' input on what we need to do to clean this thing up? Then nobody knows it any better than they do, and then we can look at it and try to come up with a recommendation after all our idiotic ideas are good.
yeah, I think that's our process, is to identify what the particular, I mean, we can see our own that
Right.
strike us, and those are part of it. But the things that, you know, if we're looking at the inability to quantify, you know, what's an employee, you know, the acreage issue, all these things. I think we can rough draft that. We're not going to come into detail. That's where it'll go through the department. That makes sense. I do think it's just such a new subject for us. That has, even though it's evolved, I think the angles into it now are very different than they used to be. It was a pretty simple program in the beginning, and now it's got different directions it's taken. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I would just add too, that I think it's really good, right? Like we owe sportsmen, we owe a lot to private landowners, and this is a great way. I think it's a good allocation. It's okay to talk about some of the parts that need help.
Yep.
Yeah. Second back through and just that's a comment I was just gonna make actually, is that's. You know, way back when I started with the agency, there were landowners. Mostly non-residents trying to figure out a way to hunt their own property. It's like, it's great to see this kind of incentives come this far to be able to allow that to happen. So. Don't want to throw the baby out, but certainly worth. Saying that I think there's incredible value to let this offer to lots of landowners. We just need some fine tuning, I guess.
There's a point that, you know, making a landowner happy, even if they're not in block management, that the system's working more for the land that deserves the system to work for them. That's good for the public hunters if let in for cow elk stuff, but if Ronald, that some guy came in and bought 640 acres or something, was paying some landowner under the table to get one of those tags that should be going to real guy. That's a good thing for public hunters, so.
So. I mean, I guess we could start back into, you know, I wrote down 7 things here so far. That we've all brought up. Jason probably has more. I'm guessing. But I'll run through them and see. And these are just not in an order. So one that we've identified would be on your own property. It's just one second. Two, the way we determined elk use is an issue. The full-time employees issue. Purpose of this program is, you know, fleshing that out. We talked just briefly about 640 versus 160, and that's the difference between a deer preference and an elk preference, but they're different programs. How you might simplify that or whatever. In the last part, multiple parts to landowner preference, multiple statutes, and potentially combining them into one within the different hunt opportunities or game opportunities in program. Not the last one I don't think we talked about, but I was thinking that. So when it comes to if the purpose is to recognize word, however you want to describe it, and I think we should describe it, the landowner for their contribution to conservation, wildlife management, then I wonder, does it matter so much? Let's probably get it going a little bit, but whether they're a resident or non-resident, if they're actually an ag operator, the bigger issue is people who game it by playing. As we've talked, to me, if you've got an ag operator that's a resident or non-resident, I don't know how much that matters today. Maybe it does, but if they're actually providing good habitat, is that, I don't know.
If they're being a Montana, you know, that was the way it used to be. You know, you've got a ranch and I think we're forcing them to lock these places up because we can't get a tag. And if their friends are all from wherever the hell they came from, you know, we don't need to reward the crooks. We need to reward the guys that are doing it right somehow or other. I think it's getting better because I think they can get a tag now, but you know, instead of having to, you've got a ranch when you got Stouty or operating, you should be able to have it get in the drawing and get a tag.
I want to piggyback on that point though. Really look at the drawing. You look at the drawing stats. And I mean, if you really go through the statistics, I mean, it's odds. So it's not like they're not getting these tags. I mean, some of them, I mean, yes, like 680, 690, 380, 270 for deer. yes, those are like once in a lifetime tags for most residents, but they have way higher odds as a landowner. So it is still, I think, relevant that this is still a really big benefit. And I don't think that should be undercut, that necessarily it is 100%.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair to state. Even
Yeah, I mean, it's
2% or something for an elk permit.
right. I mean, realistically, if you look at like the resident landowner drawing odds for elk, almost all of them are 100% with the exception of like 690, 380.
690 and 680 is rifles or archeries.
Right, way higher.
Archery, landowner preferences are scans.
Right. Yep. So
draw, and that's what the angle of some of these guys.
Yep.
I can draw a tag every other year.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just to not undercut that this is still a huge benefit. You know, I mean, I probably will never draw the 690 tag probably in my life, but there are folks who will draw it every couple of years. But
Yeah.
that is the cost of you guys having the wildlife.
You gotta start sucking up to me now.
I think, can you put me on your payroll?
I will not do that.
Election's just around the corner. Sorry, Paul, I had to say it.
I know.
Mr. Chair, Dave has his hand up as well.
Dave.
Yeah, I just was curious, what do other states do with this landowner preference? Or, as I've heard, some states offered landowners tags. I don't know what other states do.
Branch for wildlife.
Emily, can you say some of that?
So it varies greatly.
Yeah.
But it just depends. Not every state offers landowner preference. Some do and some don't, and none of them look like this. But the ones that are kind of like ours are very specific to what you guys are talking about. They offer landowner preference in their own land only. So I don't have a lot out of pocket more than that.
Did that answer well enough, Dave?
Yeah, I'm just curious because I've heard that some states give landowners like an elk tag or whatnot, and I don't know what goes on.
Sure. Paul.
One thing we touched on earlier was block management, enrollees that they get a general tag. I don't know why in the heck they shouldn't get a permit too, especially, I mean, those guys are letting in a ton of access. And yet I think they should get a permit also with at least. I mean, they're the ones that are really letting a lot of people in.
I think, was it 2 meetings ago or 3 that we went over that? Pretty good.
I remember we talked about it, but I didn't know what we came up with, but I would think that seems a little more.
Yeah. So Paul, I think a lot of what we talked about in that discussion, and I mean anybody who was here, but it was, they are being monetarily taken care of. And I think that was kind of the consensus, is that money aspect, the impact fee was the carrot. We did to add another carrot when there was already a potentially good one.
But we've lost 1.7 million block men too. So this might help to incentivize more people.
Well, isn't that up by Kalispell, and it really isn't lost, isn't that there's
In region 2.
It's not really a loss.
In region 2.
Oh, region.
Yeah. That's been the number one, Nature Conservancy and the forest land. Which I think we might hear a little bit of. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, just my comment on that from the past, and I think through what I would say is my mind is morphing in this reality as we delve into landowner preference. And at the time looking at 454 is becoming EHAs and how that changed. You know, I had a conversation just today with a landowner who's on block type 1, many acres. And you could easily justify in any way you want them splitting it up and having 5 tags. But they don't do that because they're heritage ranch. They don't think that way, even though it's like we get one to split between father, son, mother, a wife, and now a grandson. And they've got plenty of room for it. So I just say, it seems to me that maybe that needs to be revisited. I had that down too, you know, block. Yeah, they got impact payments, 100-day payments for impact. But I think as we've seen, and this whole issue has been driven by hunting has more value now, whether it's generational to the people on the place or whatever, you know. I mean, I know a ranch over west of town where the father, who is now retiring, never hunted. He didn't care. He didn't have time. And I recall when his son got into archery hunting, it goes, how do you have time to waste archery hunting? And this son,
Could have been fixing fins.
yeah, this son really enjoys that part of the hunting season as a break and enjoying it alone. So I just think so much changes over time. So certainly worth conversation. Yeah.
Dave, did you still have your hand up or are you good? I think you're good.
I put it down.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
So that's what I've noted. So I think at a point we can, are there others? Are there others that I didn't make a note of?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Don't be, one of the things I brought up earlier that I could see needing change back again, that for that elk specific example, you've got 3 chances to put in for a permit. And if in the spirit of what we're trying to do, I would like to see us have 1 date and 1 opportunity for them to put in, just like everybody else. And make them their general application or the landowner preference or the 454, rather than giving a stab at all 3 of them.
Anybody comment on that? As to pluses, minus, reasons for why it can't? Gail?
Maybe not why it can or it can't, but that has been a theme of this council for several meetings, is what can we do to consolidate some of these timeframes when you're looking at the access programs? How can we work on this to get one out? It's a theme that, again, that is continually raised by members of this group. And I think it very much applies to this, just like it does to many of the other things. And in doing so, I think it's a service to the department, especially the regional offices, but really from the regional office to the Helena office, it would be beneficial, I gotta believe, to have a standard or 1 deadline date, 1 set of 1 agreement for the click off the boxes for the access programs, whatever it is. And I know it would take some work for the department, but I think at the end of the day, it would be a benefit to them.
Any comment from licensing on that?
Nothing in particular. I mean, we love consolidation of stuff. It makes it a lot easier instead of having stuff all over the place all year. I think in licensing, it's incredibly busy for 11 months at a year because we're either prepping for something or wrapping up something. So we appreciate putting stuff together.
Dave,
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Would somebody explain what a 454 is to this hillbilly? I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, Dave, I can address that. So 2001, the legislature in House Bill 454 created an opportunity for a landowner to receive a license or permit or both for allowing public hunting access for wildlife management purposes. So that program really didn't take off until the last couple of years, where the legislature changed definitions and we kind of adopted new definitions for what we call the elk hunting access agreement. So it's a 454 or elk hunting access agreement, simultaneously named the same thing. Basically allowing a landowner a license or permit in exchange for 3 public hunters, one of which the landowner can select. So the landowner gets a license or permit to use on their own land. It's only good on their own land. And then they have to allow 3 public hunters, one of which they can pick, and the public hunters all come off the successful draw list. So you've had to have drawn that license in the original April or June drawings as a public hunter. And then the landowner basically sets the terms of access. Does that help?
Thank you. That was very informative. I understand now.
Yep. So if we say 454s, it's the same thing as elk hunting access agreements. Just that was the original long ago bill number. Yep. And it's changed a little bit. Like I said, recently the council had a few recommendations about, if a landowner is going to get an either sex permit, then the public also should have an either sex hunting opportunity. That was a 23 session modification that came from this council. Because prior to that, for a few years, it was a landowner got a bull tag or either sex permit, and then it was 3 of those elk hunters. So it did change.
Thank you.
And then to the other comment about block management and elk hunting access, the only feedback I've had would be what the commission has also noticed through their process, which is we get, let's just say we get 40 elk hunting access agreements. As of recent, about half of them have also been block management cooperators, because they're looking for that either sex opportunity on their own land as well. But the commission at the last meeting made a couple of comments about, trying to balance those 2 programs and the landowner's desire to hunt their own land with the access opportunities that are gained one way or the other.
Yeah, it seems like for landowner preference, it's going to come into this permit for a bull tag, and also then the issue of a B tag for elk, and some combination of that somehow to be most effective for all of this. Okay. Makes any sense, but I mean, right now it's you apply for all these different opportunities for landowner preference. What's the, when you add all the other criteria that have to be considered to stay under the cap, when really is that what it does? So.
Well, and it's not just necessarily people in block management that are asking for these 454 EHA tags.
Right.
It's people who have done easements or things like that are also, well, now I want a bull tag too, because I am paid for this easement now. I still want a bull tag every year as well.
Well, and some I would say, I mean, to be fair, some are asking just for antlerless elk too, right?
Right, no, 100%.
So-
But some are asking for bull tags as well. So it's just kind of, it's how far do we keep handing out?
Yeah, does it go to PALA next or
Yep.
whatever program next after that?
Fishing access. I get an elk tag.
Oh. There's a can of worms.
But you can see where when you overlap landowner preference with game harvest, landowner preference, if it's really a recognition reward, it seems to me that would be different than all that.
Right.
But how you do that,
Right.
because then you get into all the quotas and seasons and dates, And we all know very well that, if the season is from September, Labor Day through the end of November, then the elk show up during the week between that and the heritage hunt.
Right.
So,
It's messy.
I think we've got to really look at this somehow as what it was designed for. What can we define what we think the purpose would be today for landowner preference as our own concept? Would that'd be a good place to start? It's pretty well there, but or just recognize it's there and then deal with the details. Thought?
I think we understand what the purpose of it is. I think we just need to refine it now to what we think will help improve the programs.
Anybody else? Let's concur with that. Chris?
Well, all I can say is I've been to the legislative session every year and it's painful. They've got 5,000 bills and most of them don't mean anything, and things that do mean something. And with the government, I mean, as a business owner, I can simplify things, but as the government and stuff, you just can't go and change things, and because it's statute. And just trying to simplify things is a much easier way to live your life and run a business, and constantly doing that. And it's this kind of stuff is hard because there's always loopholes and things that are happening and then we, like adding more elk tags. I mean, there's a reason why, like the Bear Paws have 50 archery tags and 50 elk bull tags, is because they're trying to maintain quality, like 380, a trophy area, if you want to call it that, and keep throwing out tags to this guy and this guy and this guy for every little good deed they did, and it's no longer what that was designed for. So now you got 100 tags. That's what the wardens and the biologists think it should be, and then, oh, by the way, we're going to throw out 40 more to you guys. So you put more people on the landscape, and it's less quality of a hunt for the person that's been trying to draw it for 30 years or 20s. Just my small opinion there. So
yeah, and I don't think you've brought the concept of increasing the quota on a unit. I mean, we got to leave that to biologists, right? So there's still going to have to be a drawing within that pool, however it is. The elkhorns are the good example. 100 tags? We can't have 200 tags to satisfy. Yeah.
Really
can.
Right, I'm just gonna-
breaks when the hunting season
guys
starts.
will make it a general area.
Right. And then the quality is going to diminish within 5 years.
A year.
Yeah. Seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your pleasure? Do we want to pick one subject and work on that now? Dale.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment to add. 3 of the points that were brought up, the one about what defines an employee, one about hunting your own land, and the 160 versus 640 acres. All 3 of those topics were discussed at length in prior sessions of PLPW. I'm not suggesting that we don't need to relook at them, but all 3 of those at the time we looked at them. I think both you and I were probably involved in those discussions. But it might be helpful if we had some context of, some of the reasoning we came up with what we did, or some of the recommendations we did, rather than starting from scratch and trying to redefine this, especially when we've had some significant discussions in the past.
Fair.
Well, Mr. Chair, I feel like a really easy one for this late in the afternoon would be the W-9 a requirement for a W-9 to be turned in. I feel like that's an easy or two, whatever they're called.
Yeah, well, I think it's W-9 is if you're gonna be paid as a independent contractor or something. I don't think that.
Sorry, W-2.
That'd be more of a full-time.
Correct.
Not that I'm.
I mean, I feel like that's a pretty easy one to discuss. That would we like to make that recommendation? I mean, that feels easy. I feel like the 640, the one, it seems a little bit more convoluted because you're gonna have somebody who I know personally, a landowner who has his ranch split by a tiny chunk, and so I'm gonna be pro splitting the contiguous, and I don't think that probably is necessarily the popular opinion. So
Worth a discussion though, I think. 'Cause
Yep.
We got feedback and a little bit ties into tomorrow's discussion, but one of our landowners in Region 1, that was his example where he had 960 acres, but was split by a neighbor or something, and would like to get an Atlas elk license. And the way he does that now is through an EHA. And so to that conversation, I think there's validity there of just having the conversation.
Right.
Want to start there? But I think your conversation might be
just,
it might not be for us to implement.
right, but it can be a recommendation, but I mean, regardless of the legislature change it. So
It's payroll in here.
I'll turn in my app. Once it's passed.
Full time.
Full time, yeah.
Year round.
Yeah, year round.
Well, that is a question, right? So, I don't know that it's in both definitions, but year round, right? That's a first question. If you want to address this topic, year round, should it be year round? That is a conversation together.
Right.
Nightcap.
I guess see,
or
this is more
somebody
complex than I
helps
thought it was.
expense, or if somebody should a landowner be able to designate that person, or does it have to be truly that you work year round?
Should it go to an employee at all? And should it just be for people who? And then you.
There we go. See, sorry.
I remember having this conversation a long ago.
Oh, detail.
I wasn't here.
And the issue was, there was some discussion that someone would bring someone on for just a matter of a few work hours so that it could get the tax.
Right.
And then that is why this was developed, and it was to kind of keep a good structure on that, and so people can't cheat.
Yeah. Well, the flip side of that, as I remember some of that discussion, was also that if you have a farm operation, maybe you have somebody work from spring planting through fall harvest, and after that, they're out of work. They're employee of them for the entire year that they need them. But there may be 4 months of the year that they're not employed, and there was a concern that we don't discount those employees.
Right.
Where they may not be working 12 months a year.
Not many, even the big farms and big ranches, there isn't a lot of them that have 12-month employees anymore. You know, they're guys that come and, like you're talking about, specifically to do certain things. And well, I don't know how the hell you do it.
So Emily or Robin, can you, like, between two various programs, there's two parameters, aren't there?
If you're on page 12, it has the definitions. And LPs is a person who is paid by a landowner to do work who has state or federal taxes withheld from the payment for the work provided. That one doesn't require this to be year-round, and that one is the one that got changed in the 25 session.
It's the newer one, yeah.
And then the elk permit is an employee of the landowner who works full-time and year-round as a part of the active farm and ranch operation. So that's separate then.
So the first thing would be to standardize one with the other.
Yeah.
Correct.
And as Dale said, in that hearing that day, there was a lot of that conversation about, you know, like he's on staff all year, but he doesn't work. That's it.
Right.
This is the window that they work in. And those particular landowners were very particular about that. So that was a discussion. Just a quick mention for the W-2. People are not gonna wanna give us that.
Why not?
That's their social security
Yeah.
number.
Oh,
And so
Don't we give the department our social security number anyway?
the last four digits. So, people are just particular, just a note for the conversation. Anytime we ask for things like that, people are not happily, especially now. The more modern we get, the less like they like to share that kind of information with us. A tax document.
I want to make note too that, you know, we accepted via email, not a secure form of transfer, so people are not going to mail their social security number to places where they could be potential.
So if you didn't have that, how can you verify? That'd be my question on whatever's.
wouldn't it have its name on there though?
You're right. That's why we take, that's.
Black it out.
The route.
Black out your social.
Black out social security number.
You guys, I mean, right now are taking fees. So that's pretty pretty much.
Social security number on it, and in Montana, you don't have to disclose how much money that you paid for the property. The non-disclosure state, so you don't have to add all of that. And it's just, we can certainly do it. I'm just saying that in our experience, they may not love it.
Can I ask a question? What was some of the discussion during those periods that include employee? Why have the landowner, their immediate family? What was the addition of the employee for?
So
Like if we're trying to reward the landowner.
corporate ranches, Dana Ranch, they want to give it to their ranch manager. Yeah, they don't, they don't have.
Incentivized program for you to come work for me. You can also make this much money, but I can't pay you more, but you could claim landowner preference on my property because you are my.
Like I said, it has value, not monetary, but it has value, social value.
Helping ranches.
And there's more and more ranches all the time.
Which, like Emily said in that discussion, I know a lot of people said like they had kids that, college kids that worked for them just for the summer. Or their kids came for the summer, they had weed trainers, or you know, people that are just working part of the year. Do you say they don't qualify? Yes, no.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to say full-time employees.
I don't like that.
Technology and everything, there's no full-time employees anymore.
Yeah, but I can go from a business owner and say, you don't qualify as an employee. I mean, we're sitting here talking about giving them a trophy elk tag and they work a few hours. I mean, we're going down a hole where it's like, we're talking about benefits, and that's a hell of a benefit for a person that's gonna come and go like a lot of ranch people do. It should be flopped around, and it should be, you stay with me for 2 years, and that's the way benefits work. Benefits don't work. You dangle the carrot to be here 2 years. You don't say, the employee doesn't get to say, well, I'll come to work for you, but I get an elk tag. See ya.
But that would be it between the landowner and the.
But we're just sitting talking about a benefit that.
Yeah, I know. But how do we get,
People are putting in for 20 years for this elk tag, and someone's obviously gonna go work for the ranch guy for 6 months. Get my elk tag.
You could look at how there are some federal guidelines to qualified part-time, qualified full-time.
Yes.
Designations for your employees. I mean, you could do that if you wanna, as to your main question though, whether it's an employee, full-time, part-time, or just a moment.
My whole point behind this is because this is what I'm seeing. I'm supposed to talk about it tomorrow, but real quick, the abuse is that they're paying.
It's fine.
They're paying I know 2 people that are paying a landowner under the table money, and they're getting their elk tag, and they're going and hunting anywhere in the bear paws they want. That is horrible abuse.
I want to make note here of, you know, requiring a W-2 for an employee. So Peyton's my brother, and I say he can hunt on my property. We have 2 different last names. But you know, Peyton's my brother. Does it change yourself? Or do you have to require everything?
But you can provide payroll receipts.
You require a birth certificate that links
Without-
us together, you know, like you go into a lot of other discussion. How far do you hold the point?
Yeah, and that's why that's why every law should be simplified. And in the beginning, never should have been an employee in the first place unless there's some ramification for 2 years or whatever. I mean, it's just getting abused, and it's probably more than I know. I just know. what I know.
I guess.
It's a fact. I can, if I had some FWP people that I know, they know what's happening. They can't do anything about it.
Is there any way that you guys could, before tomorrow, and I know this is like a big ask, sorry. Is there any way that you could tell us how many are going to landowners and how many are going to employees?
So I want to make note, every application that we get is a paper application.
So it's just
that
all
we look
different, so it's not in
This
an
is
Excel
the
sheet.
file folder that we have to.
Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Something where you guys just like.
Like to
do-
in process that we look at each individual one for that.
Right.
Not an easy fix. You said this was gonna be easy.
Yeah, sorry. No. I mean, I guess now, I mean, I'm almost leaning towards.
I print out, so I'm just gonna pass it out. This is the information Dale asked I print out when we were projecting, so I printed it out. I'll just pass it out to you guys. This was the bonus point and drawings.
We are in agreement with you guys on a complicated case for the employees. We've run into these problems too, and how much we have, so much. And we get into some weird territory too. As FWP, we're asking for employment information, so it's, so we need some help here too. You guys got a great idea, we're here.
Yeah.
Well, the way to get rid of it is just not having an employee.
Honestly, that's where I'm leaning.
That's it. That's the way to solve the whole thing.
I think as an outfitter, we regulate, right? Correct? And what I see is, I see a rule that, and you see a law, but you can't back it up. And that's not your fault, but this is a rule. You have to be an employee, but you don't have to prove it. It just drives me crazy. I mean, it's just, this whole deal, just because of what I see, drives me and a few wardens crazy. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people that know it, and we're seeing it, and here's the law, but we don't have to prove it. Just, then why the heck have it? Let's take it out.
Well, you know, it goes to your family.
Right.
Period.
I like you.
But that's gonna be
Right.
that'll be a tough deal, but it's some way you gotta try to stop the abuse, and how do you do that without upsetting some people, but
You change anything, you're gonna upset somebody.
yeah.
So, clarify it for me if you could. So on the non-resident combination license, that doesn't exist, right?
Employee is not someone they designated.
Right.
Correct.
So that's part of what you're talking about,
Yep.
various statutes
Mhm.
being applied to the different types of permit. So when I read that, it's on one of the earlier ones. Under 872714 words of them. That is essentially set aside for non-resident landowners. Or their designated immediate family member, that's defined as spouse, parent, grandparent, child, grandchild, sibling, niece, or nephew of the landowner by blood, marriage, or legal adoption. So somebody worked that out one time in completeness. Right.
And that's clear.
Was that us? I think it was.
Yes,
It'll be the next the adopting people.
Right.
That takes a little money though, doesn't it? You can get rid of them all.
Some of these people that are bending the rules have a lot of money.
They want to spend that kind of money.
But they got friends that have a lot of money.
I can change the policy manual every year, and then we have to figure out what we created that we have to fix. But we can do it quickly, like you said, Chris, it's like, no. So.
Chair, I guess I'm gonna go back to the reason this was created was as a benefit to landowner.
Right.
And so now I just see, like you said, this is becoming a benefit employee package, and I would rather see it go to a landowner than trying to fudge the system for an employee. And so I guess I am in the boat that maybe employee goes away.
Well, you could, okay, so I'll just throw one caveat in that you could do, like, if you have a ranch manager, that's really a ranch manager. You could put that qualification on there that they're a full-time regular employee, and there are state guidelines for that has worked for the ranch for 3 or 5 years, or whatever the number is.
Right.
If you want to put a key employee, and why would you give part-time seasonal 1099 people that opportunity?
Because
And that's
they're
probably what's
making a
going
payment
on.
under the table saying,
Well, it could be your structure that you do 1099s and don't have W-2s. Could be. So you don't offer any other benefits except that OPEB. But just a thought.
Well, you gotta keep on this non-resident combo license. That's for the big game general license.
I know, but what if that was the rule, that it was applied to all of it, whether it's a B tag, whatever, amateur tag and unit tags, because these are different. Is that right? There are different.
That non-resident preference pool is battling on their own land.
Yeah. That's another issue. I was talking about this for who, because somewhere it used to say the designee. Did we change all that? There was a point where it said, or the landowner's designee. Maybe that's in
Different programs,
Yeah, that's
different rules.
That's in the
What do they, on the EHA, does they have to give a family member or employee designee being one of those two people?
Yeah, for their permit. But I don't want to get in.
Yeah, we gotta
They
put
designate.
some thought.
Right.
Right.
Okay, put some thought in.
Right.
We gotta kind
I
of
thought it was gonna be
lump it
easier.
all together.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Won't be. But look, we gotta, just have to put some thought into it and come. I mean, I'd carry it to the big house over there. Try to get it through, but something's just to modify or, refine.
You know how it works. The very best thing is if we can have a consensus here that this is the right language to fix these
Yeah.
problems and get a couple legislators on, and then the administration will go. And then it maybe doesn't change in 27 again.
We got some time because sometimes my good idea after some thought is not a good idea.
Well, I don't want to add more wrinkles to your conversation, but so for elk hunting access, it is employee or designee.
Right.
For block management, same way, employee or designee.
Okay.
So we do have a number of cooperators enrolled who offer that as an employee benefit. For being their block management, they hold lottery drawings and whatnot, and perhaps we might have one of those on kind of the panel discussion tomorrow. I'm not sure if she'll make it in person or on Zoom, but there are some of those corporate companies who offer this to employees as a benefit or an option to.
So if they're a block management coordinate cooperator, it's not an incentive to be a block management cooperator. That's part of that. It's different.
Who qualifies as a designee? What do they have to be?
We're the immediate family member or full-time year round.
But not just, it has to be one of those two, right? Employee or family member.
Yeah, EHA defines it. So for EHA, it says the designee may be an immediate family member or an authorized full-time employee of the landowner who is eligible for licensure under Title 87, Chapter 2. Is that you're a resident, those sort of things.
Jason.
So we did define that then.
Yeah, EHA is defined. It's different than block management.
Yeah.
Different than.
Maybe we need to look at the program definitions for this. Whatever they.
Is this just a rule here?
Some of them are, some of them are.
The same definition of statute.
These are ones
Yep,
are,
those are in law, they're.
these are statutes, these are just rules.
We don't have to actually figure that out. It's gotta say. You gotta figure that out.
Well, I mean, if it was a rule, it'd be a lot easier.
Right.
But what we could do is identify that these are all in conflict with each other and inconsistent. And they need to be made consistent amongst all the programs that designate this opportunity.
Which leaves it over to life.
For verbiage.
Yep.
Greg, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think through, like Chris is saying, it's like, it's just thought.
And just like Chris, there's times when I think I have it and then a day or two goes by, it's like, I don't even know why I thought that, yeah, but. The thing keeps coming back to me is there's gonna be fraud, there's gonna be abuse, we're actually probably more accurately trying to minimize it. Not gonna fix it. But at least we can minimize what the heck's going on, and so I was curious too, just Jason. Maybe we've covered this, but maybe there's no reason why we have all these different definitions of employees or whatever. Is it worth just a short discussion about why these weren't used that were already established? Like with 454, is there a reason why they went to more defined or seemingly a more defined definition for that?
I wasn't around for all those employee definition discussions. I think it's just a byproduct of different bills, different sessions, different years.
What I can add to Jason's is that we recently touched that statute, so we could update the definition in it. And a lot of the statutes you're talking about, we haven't updated in years.
No.
And so as they open, we address them as we can. And since EAJ was done 2 years ago, we said, hey, we have a problem here. Let's address it there. That's part of our universal problem, right? We've made it really well in some statutes, and some are older and they're vague language. So that's causes a problem for our program and his.
So that's an internal thing that it starts internally, those discussions about what you're gonna bring forward for cleanup or whatever you're.
I think the PHA's came from an outside source, but yes, they do. We have those.
Yeah, there's some of that, but I think it's honestly just the volume of bills and the lack of understanding of overlapping statutes and bill. I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but I can say that that the landowner preference as it exists and as we discussed so far this afternoon would look a whole lot different if I hadn't jumped into the middle of a committee conversation because they stole the block management definition and put it on landowner preference, and it actually alluded to you only were eligible for landowner preference if you were in block management. And so I caught Quentin and I said, we got to get this fixed, or everybody who qualifies for landowner preference isn't going to qualify. So they tweaked it in an amendment, I think, in one of the committee hearings. It's that level of understanding over the years of bills. I think that it just has become this.
I think landowner preference began outside of access.
Oh yeah, very much so.
So they weren't even really compared to each other side by side.
You bet.
So I think that's what they do, in practice. They look at one definition, they think, okay, that's a definition we can apply over here, and they move the parts.
So if we can line up those definitions, all these things, and look at them, maybe we can come to one. And that certainly shows the confusion for application and consistency. And do they need to be the same? That'd be an easy recommendation.
Yeah.
Good, Chair. Could we ask the licensing people to come up with a definition they think would be adequate or good for all of them? Is that put, huh?
Because they're not busy enough.
Would you? I think that would help us a lot.
Stephanie?
Chairman, is it something we could add to the list of maybe the 7 or 8 things that you have written down? Is it something we could add, maybe helping the department with some sort of punitive, or if you fraudulently fill out one of these applications or abuse landowner preference, that they would have, licensing would have some sort of recourse for people who are fraudulent.
I like that. One's privilege.
Right. Give them more teeth in the game than.
And somebody could, turn them in.
We ask Alex about that and just say if that's a path we could even want to, or would even want to go down.
I mean, it's certainly a path that, I have thought about, because there are some agreements out there where people do lie and there really is no recourse. Unless we want to go down a civil case, which we really legal does not have time for.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it certainly is something, and if there was just a statute that we could point to, it would make our lives a lot easier, and then we could just include that in the agreement. And then they're at least on notice when they attest on the declaration.
It's a deterrent, if nothing else, too.
Would that be legislative?
Yeah.
What would the appetite for that likely be in the legislature?
It's a good question. I'm not sure on that. I think they might ask this. They might ask some questions about how frequent that is occurring, before enacting the statute that would provide those civil remedies, but I don't think it's something that they would just fully disregard.
Fair enough.
I mean, other law enforcement things that come up with hunting, like trespassing, they've had plenty of appetite to increase those penalties.
Right. Shed hunting.
Mr. Chair, Dave's on too.
Dave, sorry, you didn't get there, Dave.
Yeah, this is probably not the answer, but if you wanted to make it real simple, just landowner preference and you drew a permit or tag, whatever, that landowner, which is done in other states, he can do whatever he wants with it except sell it. He could give it to whoever he wants. The landowner still got the permit. That would make it the simplest. I'm not saying it's the answer, but it is real simple.
The biggest problem is this thing called cash.
Yep.
You know,
It sounds like they're doing that anyway.
Right.
We just make it legal, I guess.
Active vehicles are really hard on transferable licenses. And this caution, it would be a slippery slope.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it would be a non-start with most sportsmen in the state.
I'll keep that one out.
Sense.
Okay,
Yeah, makes sense.
so now that we defined that, Stephanie. a little problem.
Yeah, sorry.
The easy one.
Sorry.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, so where are we leaving this? Oh, you're gonna,
How about we pull together all 4 definitions specifically for you, for EHA, for block, for permits, licenses, let's put everything together and then that would help you guys craft a better definition and then we can contribute to that conversation. We can do that by tomorrow. I'll grab that for you.
You're
That's
good.
something.
Are you sure you guys don't want to go through all those 3,000 applications?
Yeah.
How big of a problem is this?
Anybody
You're
want
gonna stay up all night and help them.
Yeah.
all right, the next easiest one is?
Keeping my mouth shut.
Low hanging fruit.
How about on your own property? It's in some of the statutes. So where is it in these programs that you hunt on your own property?
So no resident priority to live with on your own property, EHA, property. I think that's the only two.
Landowner preference, you don't.
Just specifically to those.
Sponsored.
And I want to mention that it's not just your specific property, it's property that you enrolled and submitted. So if you own submitted 1,000 acres in region 1, but you own 1,000 in 1, 2, 3, and 4, doesn't grant you access for all of it. It's what you submit and enroll to us.
And I think you're gonna get strong arguments on both sides. Really, just there'll be a lot of people that are supportive of your own property and then you'll have the other half that are, benefiting from, sounds like my preference, but I just feel I have the road and it's within my district. And I hunt there, even though I don't have any, still in the district.
How about increasing the acreage?
That's another discussion.
Well, I meant,
No, yeah,
I meant for this issue.
Well, at our past meeting, it seemed like the argument really came from the northwest corner of the state, where there were a lot of landowners that had 160 acres of alfalfa, and they wanted the elk would come in and cream their alfalfa, and it's wintertime, around the elk were gone. And we had talked a lot about, okay, hunt your own property. They said, well, the elk have done their damage, but they're long gone from our property by the time the season rolls around. And that was the argument that was made. It was made with the legislature. Well, and I think who was the commissioner that used to be on the PLPW? Richard Duker. He's one that talked about that. Denley Logan talked about that. And they were pretty adamant that that again, there's a lot of landowners up there that withstand the damage when the crops are growing, but they all are gone when this season's around. That's not an argument for or against. It's saying that was the argument.
But aren't those areas general draw areas? I mean, they could hunt them anytime they want anyway, if they're resident. I mean, if they're a resident, and that's a general draw area, right?
It is.
So if they got elk on it, they don't need a special permit or a license to do it unless you're a non-resident.
I'm not sure some of that wasn't cow permit.
You're looking at some of the elk be licensed.
Well, okay.
That's probably what it is the cow permit situation, because you can't get it. Can't hunt either sex up there.
Mr. Chair, can I weigh in from a public land sportsman perspective? Put that.
You don't have to identify your.
Sometimes I do. So putting that hat on and looking at the last commission meeting and the reason why they just reduced us by 50% of whatever those orphan tags are. Because one of the big themes globally, not only just in Montana, but across the West is overpressure on public lands. And so when I think of the public Joe Lunchbox sportsman who has a 10% draw odds for a special permit, and then if I look across at a LOP who has, call it 60%, I think that's rough average was 60%. It took 10 years to draw that permit, and they are maybe only available to hunt on public land. Now they're potentially competing against a landowner now who had a 60% draw, so they're drawing that tag every other year, essentially. They're competing against somebody who gets to draw that tag all the time versus 1 out of 10 years in that example. So I think from that perspective, that's an argument towards saying, hey, listen, you're getting these increased draw odds, but we're saying you have to hunt on your property. I think that would be a fair perspective on that from that hat.
So let me get that straight. So the B tags up in that region are on a draw. What program are they applying for? Is that the landowner preference?
It depends on their acreage requirements and what they're applying for. The ones we have are like with an elk hunting access agreement.
I'm talking about just the guys that landowner preference, right? They don't, do they have to, what do they have to do for
They would have the same
land?
640 contiguous for elk requirement.
Do they have to let family? Those aren't family.
Not for landowner preference, no.
So if they've got landowner preference and they're in a general area, all they need to do. They're
Buy a tag anyway.
They're gonna buy a tag anyway. So I mean,
right.
They don't have any family or employee requirements for that tag up in that area. So we're not talking about them there at all.
Unless it's a B license.
Well, the B license, isn't that the landowner preference though? What B license programs have we got?
Well, that's what they would just, the quota is set at, say 50.
Yeah.
They would have an advantage to drawing those 50. It was an eligibility requirement for them to meet that. But right now the 2 is, either you have to have some 40 contiguous or the 160 documented doing damage.
Right.
And that's where that then was trying to address that issue, smaller acreages, but still having an issue with damage and getting a B license. That was Representative Senator Logan's big push.
I want to make a point on Drew's point here. We're kind of brainstorming over here. So just a thought. You're talking about public land pressure and the public land hunter competing now with the
landowner provision of 60%, just something we anecdotally just all thought of. What about landowner preference tags are only valid on private land?
And that would be the argument for.
Not saying it's only your land, but. private
Oh,
land
just
within
private
your
land.
district.
Oh, interesting.
So not just
That-
your land, private land.
Okay.
My whole point was just about not about cow elk. It's about the trophy bulls because that's the money that's getting only trying to stop that abuse. I'm not talking about cow elk. I mean, that's a whole different thing. He's gonna pay under the table for a cow. So it's just the trophy bull areas. This is happening, and it's not just the bear paws. It's happening down in your area, in Miles City, and all that area down there. So in those special permit areas for trophy bulls, because there's a price to bulls way more than you can imagine. So
What are they worth?
Hmm?
What are they worth?
A lot.
I'll go see if I can find one.
a lot.
Bring it up to Glasgow.
Yeah. Gotta get it before it gets to the reservation, because it's only 5 miles over there. Their half-life's not very long.
Mine's right just the jump.
A lot.
We are at public comment time, so
Yeah.
you can take it whenever.
Okay. Yeah. So many tentacles. If e-license, V-tags. Permits, all that. Okay, so we'll take a pause in that discussion for public comment. You want to go online first?
It's up to you.
Let's go with in room first.
He's my driver. He doesn't.
No, it. Yeah.
It's an Uber driver from
Yeah. What you get when you Uber.
So if you just introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. Thank you. My name is Micah Fields, MICAH-FIELDS. I'm here on behalf of the Montana chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. First and foremost, just wanted to thank you for letting us be here and thank you for the discussion today. It's been really enlightening to be in a room with people who are just having a productive, open, curious conversation with no ego or bias at the table. So that's really powerful to see, and I'll report that back to our membership and everybody I know. Good information today. I think one thing we wanted to know from the chapter is just some great statistics that we saw in this packet. There's a lot of glossing over about anecdotally how this system is being abused. And I know that's not something that's easily graphable. You only have so many staff to sort of follow them. But that's sort of what this council's here to talk about today is how to think in a forward-thinking way and be progressive about problem solving this, how people are abusing this system. Chair Buell mentioned earlier, a lot of the problems we're dealing with today with this system didn't exist 10 years ago. So that's this council's job, is to think about how it can be abused. And I just echo a lot of the sentiments about checking that abuse and those loopholes. It was sort of a tangent, but I think Councilman Latribi mentioned something about licensing. We're talking about that, and, pressure and how to adjust pressure by separating upland bird licenses and combo license. And that's something that was a topic in the session. And I can't remember who, but somebody from FWP representative says that, the department would never go for a change in statute or something like that decreases revenue. And while I, appreciate that may be the reality, what we'd love to hear instead as an organization, as hunters and anglers who value this place, is that the department wants to do whatever is best for our wildlife, fish, lands, and waters, because that is the revenue. That's the industry, and that's the prize of our state and the envy of the world, to be honest. So I just want to echo and agree with this committee's interest in and dedication to thinking about these issues creatively, because this is where that creative, forward-thinking problem solving happens. And so I'd love to see that in future meetings, just looking at those maybe intangibles that we could use to put some guardrails in this system and restrict abuse. So thanks again on behalf of Montana Chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and I'll be here tomorrow with you again too.
Thanks, Micah.
So this is the public comment time for those online. please go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to make public comment. First step, let's go with Ben Lamb.
Mr. Chairman, members of PLPW, want to really just kind of reinforce what Mr. Fields said. You guys have had a tremendous discussion today about probably one of the most complex and prickly issues out there. And I think you guys made some really, really good headway in identifying the real problem areas of landowner preference, trying to get to some, brainstorming solutions. I think there's a lot of good stuff that's been thrown around. Really like the idea, like right now we do know that there's no punitive response when somebody falsely claims an employee. So I was really happy to hear that folks are thinking along that lines. Maybe it's a loss of license for, both the landowner and that applicant. Those are things that you guys can look through and see, but that would seem to be kind of, within the realm of what happens when you pick up a license that you weren't supposed to. You could lose your licensing privileges. So that may be one way to look at some of that stuff. The 640 acre issue is really just kind of mission critical for what you guys are looking at in the abuse. And I think what Mr. Faber is saying about what he's seeing in central and eastern Montana is absolutely spot on. That 640 acre issue is also one of the things that that's how large properties get subdivided for nothing more than an elk license. And if we're concerned about the conservation of wildlife habitat, if we're concerned about making sure these animals have food in the winter, in the spring, in the summer when they need it, we need some of these large ranches to stay large, or at least, if you're running 2,500 acres, you're not splitting it down to 640s simply to get a license or a permit. That's something I think really needs to happen. And I think with, discussions that have gone on relative to, trying to figure out an up-to-date GIS overlay of elk distribution, deer distribution, antelope distribution, there may be opportunity in that to cut out some of those folks that are, simply buying, hard pan 640s, where they do qualify for, elk preference, and they never have an elk on their property. Or if you're in a trophy deer district like 270, it's the same thing on 160s. So absolutely great discussion on the abuse that's out there. I think you guys are headed in the right direction on a lot of this stuff. One big caution I would say is that if you start to get into licensing and look at splitting some of these things, the earmarks on that funding that goes to block management, that goes to Habitat Montana, those are strongly defended by a broad coalition of conservation and agricultural interests. So if that's the way the agency wants to go, just know there is a big concern about what happens when those earmarks for access programs and conservation programs goes away. And if we think budget fights are bad now, just wait until some of these key programs aren't protected. So, with all of that, I think you guys are doing a great job. It's a great discussion. How could it not be with the licensing division and Mr. Cool to help lead it? Some of my favorite folks in the agency are in the room helping, give the correct information. So really awesome, really good work, and love to hear that there's some thought being put behind the kind of the amalgamation of one definition of what an employee is. I think that's a really important thing. And there's a lot more to say, but the hour's getting late and you guys have done an amazing job. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, this is the public comment time. So if you want to make public comment, go ahead and raise your hand. Next up is Mike Mershon.
Hey there, Council. Mike Mershon.
I'm affiliation with Montana Wildlife Federation. I also sit with on the EQC. I just really wanted to thank you guys again for tackling these complex issues. The discussion has been thorough. You guys have raised some solid points. I just wanted to highlight kind of the importance of this process that you guys are engaged in right now. I don't know exactly how you would do it, but if possible, if in your recommendations, if you can broadly convey how on complex issues like these, the effort that you guys are putting in to the effort that you guys and the FWP staff that you have supporting you guys, how important it is for these types of councils to tackle these complex issues. I think that's something that gets lost after these recommendations leave you guys, is just the amount of effort that gets put in understanding the nuance, understanding the ins and outs, and the definitions, everything that you guys are considering. And so, I just really want to recognize the importance of your guys' efforts here. And I don't envy you the work, but I thank you for it.
Thank you, sir.
It's fine. So this is the public comment time. If you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand. Mr. Farren, you are up next.
Hello, Chair Beal, committee members, Kevin Farren here. I am the Conservation Director for the Montana Wildlife Federation. I also just want to say I appreciate the refreshingly deep level of discussion today. A couple things to consider as you continue to talk about this tomorrow. First, MWF is not opposed to landowner preference, resident or non-resident for that matter, but we believe it was intended to be an exchange where landowners get some priority to hunt the public's wildlife in consideration for what they offer public hunters and the public wildlife in return. But as you kind of fleshed out today, that really only works if the benefits to the public hunters, like public access, or the benefits to the public wildlife, like wildlife habitat, is clearly defined and periodically documented. You've made it clear today that that isn't always the case. I did just want to mention one thing you talked about today about making this valid on deeded land only would certainly fix the question about whether or not the property really provides habitat or not, or if it fits into FWP's outdated and imperfect elk or found tier layer. But it also would address the splitting of properties into smaller LLCs. That way, if the deeded property under the sole owner of that LLC doesn't have elk or deer or antelope on it, then the landowners won't have any interest or incentive in that landowner preference, and they won't be tempted to subdivide simply to get more permits or licenses. So certainly something to think about from those angles. However, as many of you probably are aware, we brought this idea up in the past. Some landowners enrolled in block management had threatened to leave the program if they couldn't get district-wide permits anymore. And it's a sad but powerful threat, one that also brings into question how valuable to the public their block management land really is, though. In other words, if it's good enough hunting for them to get paid to allow public access, but not good enough hunting for the people who own the land to hunt themselves, that seems pretty suspect and might be worth calling their bluffs on. To be fair, though, there is that real scenario that was mentioned today, where a landowner has documented game presence and game damage, but outside of the regular hunting season. And does that landowner still deserve landowner preference? I think we would say probably. Though I will point out that there are other opportunities outside of the general season to address game damage, and that those cover half of the year. One compromise of sorts that I'd love for you guys to kind of bat around a little bit is to make these landowner preference permits and licenses valid on private land only within that district. So that could certainly take into account the fact that some deserving landowners may not have game on their properties during that general season, but stop short of letting them hunt district-wide. It also, I think, kind of fairly makes the assumption that a landowner likely has good chances of securing access to hunt neighboring private lands that may have game. So the private only restriction might not be that limiting for them as it would be for, the members of the general public. Secondly, I do want to say that, you know, this used to be a guarantee, as was pointed out today, but it's always been called landowner preference, not landowner guarantee. There are ways to make it guarantees, though, or just about, you know, like block management for non-residents or the 454s. But the 454 drawings coming after the license, the landowner preference draw is really problematic. I really, really encourage whoever mentioned that, thank you, but I really encourage you guys to look at doing those together. Forcing that decision up front will likely have the effect of increasing 454 participation, which is a good thing. In terms of acreage, yes, absolutely, 640 acres or more for antler, deer, and elk. And I would say that in the event that the continuous deeded acres falls within multiple hunting districts, I think an easy way to decide where it would apply is just the, you know, the district that most of the acreage is the one that would be eligible. And then upping that acreage, you know, would also, in theory, help the subdivision argument, as Mr. Lamb mentioned. It would definitely discourage folks from subdividing if that requirement is a little bit higher, and it might even make fewer people in that pool, which would increase the odds for the landowners that actually deserve those landowner preference. Rather than giving the permit for block, I think that's also ripe for abuse. I think something to bat around would be maybe a second bonus point for block management. That's a way to encourage the public access without making it guaranteed with a really coveted permit opportunity like that. And the last thing I will say is that I think the non-resident preference program, while there are two good saving graces about that program, the 2,500 acre requirement, I think that's wise. And the fact that they have to hunt their own property, also, I think that's wise. I just want to point out how unpopular that has been with the resident hunters to reward non-residents for buying up Montana while offering nothing to resident hunters in return. There's no access requirement, no requirement that game damage occurs, no real habitat requirements, just that they own a big chunk of land that's used for crop production. Doesn't say what kind of crop production, for how long, if there's any benefit to the public, whether wildlife or elk needs to be present, etc. I just think it's something that is badly in need of reform. So thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody have questions for any of the three public commenters? Holders.
Let's make that.
Four. I'm sorry. No? Okay. Thanks for being on there and hanging with us during this discussion, and I presume tomorrow's. Thanks for your points. All right. Any comment? Okay. So pretty much made note of those, some good points in there. So tomorrow we'll come back to that discussion of all the above. Is there anything you want to finish with in the next 15 minutes?
Is there anything else we can provide tomorrow besides the 4 definitions of employee, except for the 3,000 individual flags? Except for that one. Anything else? Is there anything that we can provide that would be beneficial for the discussion, or that we can pull together other information that you'll ask for? That's just
more beef jerky.
I can see what we can do. We probably get that work.
I think there's still some.
How about I can fix that? Yeah, what else are we missing?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that we can provide to help guide your discussion. If there's something that we didn't provide today, that we can try to get together.
So are we gonna work with you tomorrow on the language, or are you gonna propose some mushy language?
I think maybe tomorrow we'll have the 4 definitions. We got to do the work together and see where we fit with the 4. Like, see what your guys' thoughts are first.
Yeah.
Jason was just saying we could run something through AI.
Oh, good.
Mr. McNanny had some comments on the minutes, so whenever.
Is there any problems with particularly the landowner preference and EHA application deadlines being brought together? Is that a simple solution or big?
So I guess I'll speak to the little fish. We are planning to right now probably try and open up applications around the first few weeks of next year and run them until May 1st.
For which?
For elk hunting access. Yeah, we had been waiting the last few years to hold off until actually the draw was run. Couple of things going on with that, but anyway, in administrative rule, we have a May 1st deadline for elk hunting access. Not hard to change rule. But as far as forcing a choice between one or the other, that would probably be a statutory requirement that most exists. So I don't know, Emily, if you want to address the big fish.
We're also governed by dates of March 1st and April 1st as well.
And I think, you frame that correctly, that's the bigger fish will be changing everybody else's deadline, so it would be easier to change the EHA to match with the other deadlines, if that's what you guys choose to.
Yeah, we changed the rule from May 1st to April 1st. But that still doesn't really, I guess it forces a choice. It doesn't.
De facto forces them into.
It does. What you may lose then is somebody who's not successful in the draw, still not allowing that opportunity.
Which in turn is going to make them think about that subsequent years.
To Jason's point, who's to say that you can't apply for both? The statute doesn't say you can't do both. Could you apply for both and then say, never mind, don't want that one?
And we have that right now.
You know?
We have people that will apply for EHA and the commission they draw their they say, you know what I need, I don't need that.
Yeah.
If that's your choice, we'll just.
So I think you would have to have some kind of statutory requirement that would force a choice.
Yeah.
Question. Jason, just give us a feel for how many apply then withdraw.
Well, in a given year, it's probably 5 to 10 that are withdrawing either prior to or after the commission meeting, even after the commission's approved. We'll have people that just decide they no longer want to participate. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, last year I had probably at least half dozen that we had in the commission packet and then either yanked them after the commission meeting or even prior to.
Okay. All right, Dave, you're on your previous topic from the last meeting.
Yeah, the second page of the minutes for they had comments on the private ponds. It says landowners don't think it's worth it to allow access to ponds. That's not really what I said or what I meant. What I meant is there's not much pond fishing in Region 7 because many ponds don't have a reliable water source. And with the cost of fish and the cost of the pond license, which was raised from, I don't know, something like $10 to $600, landowners don't think it's worth it to even have a fish pond. Not access, but don't even want to have a fish pond with those kind of expenses. Does that make sense?
Yep. It does. Yeah, so they're just not very viable.
No, you don't have a good water source and fish cost money, and then with the cost of the fish pond license, it just kind of makes it you don't really want to do it.
Okay. Maybe. So noted. All right. Final closing comments for. Okay. So, you're back here. Paul, we're back here at 8 tomorrow.
We're gonna give him. I deserve that. I really do.
I know it's a long way from both.
I should store some
And you were in awe of the Heritage Center. I drove by. Okay, so we'll start again at 8:30. Hotels downtown. Probably where you're going. We do have a host dinner at the Windbag Saloon.
What's the name of our hotel downtown? I was over there staying for
The double.
DoubleTree.
DoubleTree.
That,
They have a parking lot off of Benton,
oh,
which is the biggest parking lot, top and bottom, but. You should have.
Right next.
that's the Best Western down there? No.
It's walking distance.
What's a holiday? Yeah.
Cadillac has a Jeep.
What's it called?
DoubleTree.
Okay, and last, we done. When we sign off. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. We're done.